This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
All right. Hello, everyone. And welcome to the Place to Be Nation WrestleMania reaction show. And oh boy, this is going to be a show to remember tonight, folks, because this was a long and eventful WrestleMania. And the booking on this show is going to be questioned for many, many, many years to come in so many different ways. I'm your host, Kris Zellner, joined as always on the reaction shows by my cohort, my co-conspirator, the Oracle of the WWE, Mr. Devon Hales. Devon, welcome back.
Hey, how's it going? I listened to you guys' Takeover podcast, which was a superior show.
Thank you.
Once again.
Thank you.
Even though it also had its booking issues, but that smoked tonight.
Boy, I mean, in hindsight, it looks like, like Mid-South 1984 compared to what we saw tonight, booking-wise. But we'll talk about that as we go along. But we are also joined by your brother, my cohort, co-conspirator of the Premier Podcast brand, also did the NXT reaction show with me last night, 2 nights ago now. Who knows? I mean, it's crazy. Dylan Hales. And Dylan, I know you're ready. You're ready to go off.
I've got to stop myself from arguing with submoronic troglodytes on Twitter right now. So I'll try to focus on the task at hand. This is going to be this could be an all-timer.
Yes.
And I before we even start, I want to preface when we get into this. I want to preface this right away by saying something. I think that it is fair to say that I've been very high on the WWE this year. I've pretty consistently praised their television shows, both from an angle perspective, especially the last month, and from an in-ring perspective. So by no stretch of the imagination am I an anti-WWE guy, and I was coming into this probably anticipating a Mania from a quality perspective more than maybe any Mania in history. Could some of the takes that you hear on this podcast be related to the high expectations? Yes, but I don't really think that's the culprit when we get down to it. So I just want to get that out of the way. This is not, because I did all these indie podcasts this week for the PWO PTBN feed. I don't want to give the people the impression that may not be familiar with this or me, if you just happen to stumble into listening to this, that I'm just some anti-WWE guy. That is not the case. And with Devon, that's certainly not the case. Yeah. With that said, I'll follow your lead, Kris.
All right. Let's get started with this atrocity of a pre-show. All right. It was a 2-hour deal, as usual, for WrestleMania. And it was a complete train wreck in many ways. Production-wise, the panel was just off the rails most of the time. It just wasn't a good use of 2 hours as a totality. And we'll talk about that as we, finish up with the whole thing. But we begin with the men's Andre the Giant Battle Royal, which I kind of figured was going to go first. So the women could be the USA Network main event on their hour of the 2-hour pre-show. So we have everybody pretty much on the card. I mean, not on the card already. R-Truth returned. So he was like the only return in the match of all the guys that were cleared medically. And he had quite the elimination with Goldust. But there's all your regular guys. Kane being in this, was interesting to see. Bray Wyatt shows up at the end. He's now aligned with Matt Hardy as he's been purified, I guess. And Matt Hardy wins the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, or should I say Humongous Wonder number 8. And he was communicating with Andre on the floor after the match. Great picture after the match tweeted out by Matt of him, Bray, and Jeremy Borash together. The creators of Ultimate Deletion. I thought that was a cool touch. But Devin, we'll start off with you since me and Dylan talked a lot last night, so we'll start with you. Your thoughts on this whole situation here, and did the right man win?
I believe Matt Hardy was the one who was ahead in the betting lines that came out today. And watching the match, it was probably the most useless, uninteresting Mania match I think I can remember seeing. But I wasn't that surprised that Matt Hardy won, looking at the betting lines and really just doing the eye test and looking at the people in the actual ring. And in the match, it doesn't really surprise me. I think Goldust was probably the best guy in the match. I thought he did a really good job holding things together and had some good spots and exchanges with a lot of people. The Bray surprise was neat. Done pretty well. Got a great reaction. And it looks like they're going to do a broken mat Bray Wyatt tag team going forward, which might actually work. And it also seems to clear up the opportunity for Jeff to be a singles competitor. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think Jeff definitely needs to be singles right now. If you want to get the maximum potential out of him, and I tweeted out the other night, I think he belongs perfectly in the IC title hunt now with all those other guys involved. So we'll see now that Seth is the new champion, which we'll talk more about that later. But yes, I agree. Goldust was easily the best guy in this match. No shock. I did like the confusion of everybody. Hell, I think even all of us were confused about Bray. I mean, because when Matt eliminated Mojo, there was like a pause. And then they rang the bell. And it's like, oh, okay, now it's over. Bray wasn't officially in this match. So there you go. But Dylan, yeah, a lot of these guys pretty much were resigned to their fate here in this match. But I did kind of like the psychology of having the two previous year winners being among the final three guys. I thought that was a nice touch. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I did like that. I mean, yeah, I agree with you that it was cool to have the previous winners in there. And it was over. And it was cool that there were so many people in the building for this, because so often on these long shows, whether it be SummerSlam or Mania or whatever, these early matches don't have anybody in the building, and that was not the case here. So the crowd was there to react, which kind of helped the fact that it was just kind of there as a match. The Bray thing was whatever for me, but I mean, the point about sort of freeing up Jeff, I get, and I think that's a fair point. Matt winning is fine. It's not like it really matters. You know, it's not, it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. I don't think they're going to do anything with the Andre winner in the first place. So I have no problem giving the win to a guy who they knew was going to be over in front of this audience.
Yeah, I agree. And again, it was interesting that they didn't put some of the other returning guys in this match, like a Big Cass or people like that. So I guess they're saving them up for TV. So we'll see what happens. All right. Next we get the Cruiserweight title match. 205 Live has been consistently probably the best TV show WWE has had this year, as a consistent week-to-week show of everything involved. Drake Maverick is tremendous in his role as general manager. Maybe the best general manager ever on WWE television, because he doesn't play favorites. He just is there for his brand, and I love that touch. Cedric Alexander against Mustafa Ali. This match has been built up so well on television with great promos from both guys. Videos, Mustafa Ali's videos online have been tremendous. But the match itself here tonight, it was a good match, good spots, but it felt like just a regular 205 Live match. Dylan, I mean, where do you fall in line with that?
I mean, the match was fine. I think this was in a tough position, in the sense of the people who have been following 205 Live on the network are, some of them are obviously going to be the type of hardcore fans that would go to Mania. But I also feel like, the casual audience probably doesn't even know who these guys are, because they're not even really on Raw hardly ever anymore. I mean, they've totally segregated the brand at this point. So for a substantial portion of the crowd, these are just dudes, you can try to do like an in-house, promo piece or whatever to sort of bring people in, and that can work to a degree. But it was probably always going to be an uphill battle. Should the match have been a little bit faster paced and they did done some more high spots and like whatever? I mean, honestly, for this crowd, I would say yes. Having said that, I don't know that it would have really mattered in terms of crowd response. It's not like the crowd was dead. It's not like they didn't care at all. But they also weren't completely enamored with this. They'd started to get into it a little bit down the stretch. It was a good match, Ali took some crazy bumps in this. He's become an absolute bump freak. And in some ways, it was weirdly structured like some of his matches have been on 205 Live, which I thought potentially was setting up for a Cedric heel turn. They didn't do that. There was a lot of in-ring banter. You're the heart. I'm the soul. Blah, blah. That was just
We've
terrible.
had a lot of that this weekend, haven't we?
And this match particularly was really bad. It was not needed. I understand that they were trying to push that the match was important, but what makes the Cruiserweight brand special, at least in theory, is that the wrestling is the important part. We are not getting beat over the head with that kind of crap. And I thought that took away from the match. The guys worked hard. To me, this was the first of what would be a pattern of bad booking decisions. I mean, I love Cedric Alexander. I've been following his career since he started. I'm an Ali fan too. I don't think it's a bad thing that Ced won the title, but to me, over the course of the last 2 or 3 months, the fans have really picked Ali. I mean, and to me, those fans of the show that are watching week to week on the network, particularly with a brand like 205 Live, you need to listen to them. And it's not like I think they're going to be angry that Cedric won the title, but I do think that Ali probably was the favorite for the majority of those people. He tends to get over more in front of the live audiences on these shows. And I think he's a babyface in the vein of Rey Mysterio that can really, define the brand. I'm not sure that Cedric can do that. I think Cedric ultimately is better suited to be part of maybe like a really good main roster tag team. And we'll see. You'll see what happens. I'm not like horribly angry about it. It was hardly the worst booking decision on this show. But it did kind of put me in a feeling of, oh, this could be a night full of weird stuff when it came to booking, and it was.
Real quick before I go to Devin, does it feel like that Cedric's going to be like I would say, I can't say transition champion because there wasn't a champion, but does he feel like he's going to be somebody that's going to just hold the belt for a short amount of time for somebody that is a new guy on the brand to become the champion?
It's possible. I mean, they could definitely switch the title to somebody like Buddy Murphy pretty quick, and it wouldn't stun me. They've certainly built Buddy Murphy up. One thing I do want to note right now, because you kind of segued to me in a way where I can mention it, is that Buddy Murphy, like, one of the crimes of WrestleMania was as many.
Did we lose Dylan?
Yeah, we did. He disappeared.
Am I?
No, you're good.
Am I live?
You're live.
Okay.
You're live. All right, continue.
I apologize
That's
for that.
fine.
The computer decided to mute itself.
That happens.
Maybe a preemptive strike by people who don't want to hear the whining later.
Boy.
I do feel like I wish that those other 205 guys would have gotten a chance, because so many of those guys are having great years this year. And I realize this is already a 7-hour show. You've already got 14 matches on the card. What are you going to do? Okay, there probably wasn't anything that could have been cut. But just as an observation, it is kind of shitty when like guys like Grand Metalik and Buddy Murphy and Kalisto and Gulak, who busted their ass and become some of the best guys in the promotion this year, don't even have a match.
Oh, there's shit you can cut out, all that goddamn bullshit banter that was going on the pre-show panel. I know they won't do it, but or showing that god-awful Page film trailer, which they did twice tonight, or just all the stupid bullshit that they had going on. So yeah, there was room to cut, and you could have had a cruiserweight scramble match. They could have went 10 minutes or whatever. At least get the guys out there and get them, just do a bunch of wild spots, get the crowd pumped up, and then move on. It's not that hard to do. But anyway, I digress. Devin, Dylan thinks that Mustafa Ali should have been the guy to win the match. Do you agree? And where do we go from here with Ali?
Yeah, I think Ali probably should have won the match. I think it's clear that he's been able to garner more sympathy than Cedric has, and has gotten kind of a groundswell of fans behind him. The match was good. I mean, taking from y'all's conversation last night, did Shawn Michaels agent this? Because I mean, they did the terrible melodramatic stuff. I mean, it's just for one, that's not these guys' strength, especially Cedric Alexander, who, quite honestly, was a terrible actor when it comes to that kind of stuff, and that he has no business doing that, and it's cringeworthy and bad. So I mean, it was especially bad with Cedric, and I feel like I'm jumping on him here, but he's and I say that because he's gotten, I don't know, I just, he's had little instances of that before that I've seen, and it's just like, ugh, it sucks. But that was terrible, and I think that took away from the match. The work was good. I wasn't like there, and there were little things like, you know, Cedric hitting a standing Spanish fly, and then Ali hitting the same move at the top rope. I didn't really like the idea of them trading the same move.
Well, the last time we saw that move either during the show.
No, it was not. That's true. But yeah, I mean, it was a good match. I think Ali should have won. I think Cedric will probably have a decent little reign. I'm not sure if he's necessarily a transitional like champion. As far as Buddy Murphy goes, I believe he's the actual number one contender, because that 4-way, I believe, was a number one contender match that he won a couple of weeks ago. So I think the next title matchup is Cedric versus Buddy Murphy. So possibly a Backlash or on 205 Live. So I mean, that is the next matchup, I believe. But yeah, the match was good. You know, I was a little disappointed, but it was a good match.
Yeah, I expected more too. And again, good. It would have been a solid TV match, but WrestleMania, you kind of wanted more because of what it was, and it just wasn't there. All right, now we have the main event of the USA Network section of this. And if you were wondering, for those of you that are watching overseas, that are listening right now, if you're wondering why during the matches on the USA Network version they were acting like they were going to break, but they weren't on the network, it's because they were going on break on USA. So
Yes.
that's the reason why. And it kind of, and this hour was the worst part of the structure of the show, because during this match in particular, we're about to talk about the Women's Battle Royal, they went to breaks at the complete wrong time on the network. not just USA, on the fucking network of all things. I mean, they missed elimination. I mean, it was a mess. I mean, but it was interesting that they treated the women's battle royal as much more of a meaningful battle royal than the Andre did, because all the men were in the ring. You know, as soon as they went to the ring, the women, Becky got her own entrance, Bayley and Sasha got their own entrances, and then everybody else was together. But at least there was some separate entrances, and you could tell who the people are that they are the highest on, of course, by their entrances. Although Becky was eliminated early in the match. But we have NXT women in this match to fill it out, as you can't have a battle royal with just the main roster women because there aren't enough. So we had Peyton Royce, Dakota Kai, Kavita Davi, excuse me, Tainara Conti, Kairi Sane, and Bianca Belair, who really shown in this match. They were involved, and I really enjoyed the NXT women in this match. I think they all added something to this match that it desperately needed. They went out there and they had fire and spirit. And you could definitely tell they were very motivated to be in this match. So I was glad that they got their chance. Interested that the Riot Squad was positioned like they were. All of them stayed there late in the match towards the end, so Sasha and Bayley got rid of them all. But there was a funky spot where Becky and Naomi was on the floor, where they said that Becky got eliminated, and the way it looked was Naomi was eliminated too, but they never said And of course, after Bayley eliminates Sasha, thinking that she won the match, there's Naomi. And then a big surprise, Naomi wins the Battle Royal. If you give me the list of people in this match, she was not going to be one of the top people I thought would win this match. So, interesting finish there. But Devin, your thoughts on this and Naomi? Shocking to you that she won?
I was shocked that Naomi won. I do like Naomi, and she's pretty consistently over, so it wasn't anything that I was disappointed with. It was just sort of an odd, bizarre choice that didn't really make any sense. But it's not something that really bothers me. The match itself was fine. I thought it was better than the men's battle royal. I liked the NXT girls a good bit, like you did, Chris. I thought they all stood out, and I thought Bianca Belair had a good little performance. I thought Dakota Kai looked good. The Riot Squad getting a nice push was interesting. I didn't expect to see that. I liked the twist on the Bayley Sasha storyline with Bayley tricking Sasha and tossing her out. You could tell that Bayley Sasha probably should have just been a singles match.
We'll talk more about
just
that,
by the
yes.
reaction that they had. They could have easily gone 8 or 9 minutes on the pre-show and had a great sprint. But it's about throwing everybody on the damn card. So that's what they did instead. And it's not like they could have done that plus the Battle Royal, but I guess they don't really. I don't know. That's not a choice that I really was a big fan of. But it was a fine little match, and I thought everybody looked good for the most part. There was some poor production in that match, and TV editing and whatnot, like you said, and that I think affected that match, and really all the pre-show matches in some ways. But yeah, it was a fine little match. But yeah, I just kind of wish we had seen Bayley versus Sasha as well, or instead, either or.
Yeah, Dylan, I was going to bring that up. I think that we were robbed of them having their singles match, and they were robbed too, because it's been built up, fairly well on television. You got a show, a 2-hour pre-show and a 5-hour main show that you can shave enough time off to give these girls a decent enough time frame for a match, so they can go out there. They were the two most over women in this match, and it would have been way better if they would have had their singles match. So, your thoughts on that and the Battle Royal as a whole?
I mean, it was well done Battle Royal. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to pan it. I didn't like it as much as a lot of people seem to. Like, it didn't grab me. I guess partially because the whole time I just kept thinking, why didn't they just do a Bayley and Sasha match? Like, if the whole build in the Battle Royal was to get to that point. I mean, yes, they did some stuff with the NXT girls. I guess you could say there was some other stuff going on. NXT women, I should say. But I don't know. Like, it just seemed odd that if that was going to be the end game anyway, why not just do the singles match? And I saw some people say, oh, well, you don't really start those things at Mania, and it wouldn't have got a lot of time. And it's like, okay, then don't book the angle for 4 months beforehand. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, because it was far better built to than Charlotte versus Asuka was. Yes. In terms of women's angles. And we can debate whether it was better built to than Nia and Alexa. That kind of depends on how you feel about that storyline in general. But the point is, it's not like, I mean, pretty much the only build at all for the Women's Battle Royal was those two. And the fact that it existed. Like, that was basically it. So it was weird to me. Like, I thought they would do a spot early. And me and Devin talked about this earlier in the week, where they would just sort of tackle each other and fall over the ropes, I figured, and then they brawl down the aisleway or something. I figured that's what they'd do. And then it would kind of make sense that they did it in the Battle Royal setting. And then you give a win to somebody like Ember Moon debuting, or maybe one of the other NXT women. No. Naomi wins because. I mean, it certainly wasn't bad. It was entertaining. There were some really cool moments in it. I love that Bianca Belair got the shine she did, but it was just a frustrating thing. One of many, where it's just like, I don't understand why this had to happen this way. But I certainly didn't hate it. It was fine. It was good for a battle royal, I would even say. But it didn't grab me to the degree it did some people.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, and we're not saying they shouldn't have had the match. You're just saying you could do both. There's ways that both could have been done. So it is what it is. All right, main show time, and we begin with the three-way for the Intercontinental Championship. The Miz, who looked tremendous in his new gear, his WrestleMania gear, went alone. Told Bo and Axel to go back to the back against Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. Finn Balor had his Balor Club with him, and he was wearing his rainbow themed colors with his black gear in honor of the LGBTQ stuff he's been talking about lately. Which Sonya Deville had the same colors on during the Battle Royal, to be noted as well. So props to them for that. But this was an interesting match. It was pretty much an all-action match, and I mean, it was interesting to see here. I mean, because any of these guys could have won, and I could have, I would have been fine with even the Miz retaining, because there's a story there that they told during the match that he was 22 days away from breaking Pedro Morales' record, but of course he loses the match. Seth Rollins wins with the curb stop on the Miz, so Miz got to lose his title direct and not have to drop it without being pinned. So good match, really good match. Dylan, your thoughts on the match? And disappointed to see the Miz not break that record.
I mean, he may still get a chance, because this is like cumulative days as a champion, and I think it's very likely that the Miz will win the Intercontinental Championship again, right? I mean, it's possible that he doesn't, especially because they were such a stickler to this here, I guess. But I don't trust WWE continuity enough, frankly, to even remember that the next time that they decide, shit, who do we want to carry a mid-card title? Because really, there's nobody better in the promotion at carrying a mid-card title than The Miz, let's be honest. I thought this match was great. This match happened, and I was like, you know what? Nothing on this show has been bad so far. Maybe the Cruiserweight match was a little bit below what I wanted. Maybe I wish we got Bayley, Sasha, but those were both good matches for what they were. Now we got this one. It's a banger. I mean, I've never been a Seth Rollins or Finn Balor guy. Both of them are admittedly having good years. I've kind of turned the corner on Finn last year, to be fair. But, they've never been my favorites. But I thought their effort here was tremendous. I thought, I'm not a guy who likes three-ways either. So this match had a lot going against it for me personally, and it totally delivered. Miz coming out looking like a lead heel from a Ben Stiller comedy, the best gear of the entire night by far. I absolutely loved this. The pace was incredible. The false finishes were great. The breakups of pins were excellent. The big Seth Rollins splash and the figure four onto Miz when he had the figure four on was probably the best camera shot of the entire night, on a night where there was a lot of not so great camera shots. Mm-hmm. If somebody said this was their pick for the best match of the show, I honestly wouldn't argue it. It's not mine, but it's close. This is another one where, okay, I don't mind Seth winning the title. I kind of thought they were going to go with the Miz retaining just almost as a surprise. Funny enough, considering what was coming later. Mm-hmm. They didn't go that way. For whatever reason, I kind of thought Seth was the least likely of the three to win, though. I thought they might put the title on Balor. And they didn't. And for whatever reason, but it's not like it really hurt the enjoyment of the match. It was just a little bit puzzling to me. It felt like, and it's kind of even more puzzling now with the way things have shaked up for the rest of the show. It felt like Seth was going to get full blown elevated based off the gauntlet and some other things that have happened, and maybe he would lose here without taking the fall, and that didn't happen. But it was a great match. Great opener. One of the better openers in Mania history. Probably in the top, I'd say 2 or 3, maybe off the top of my head. I mean, it wasn't Brett versus Owen, but after Brett versus Owen, I don't know what would be a better opener off the top of my head. And this was a match that I wouldn't say dirt low expectations for, but it wasn't something I was really looking forward to. So I was flying high after this one.
Well, I know somebody could answer that question. Let's go to our oracle of WWE here, who knows all of these matches like the back of his hand. Devin, would you rate this as the second best opener, or even the first, or where does it fall on your list? And your thoughts on Seth Rollins as champion?
This is probably the second best opener ever. I'd say the third would probably be JBL and Finlay from 24. I think this one surpassed that.
Yeah.
Brett and Owen's easily the best opener in Mania history. But this match was tremendous. They had a match last May that was outstanding, and this one was even better. And the crowd was hot, great entrances, great pace, great moves, great action, great spots, great. It was the perfect way to work an opener. Because you had Rollins and Balor doing their crazy stuff, and Miz being the opportunistic heel champion, and they lots of great stuff. That camera angle was outstanding on this frog splash, as Dylan mentioned, and I really liked the definitiveness of the finish with the double stomp breaking up the pin, and then the curb stomp as the finale. It was a really, 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 really good match, and an awesome way to start the show, for sure.
So I've seen people, and Dave Meltzer including, said that he thought that Miz came off as a babyface in this match, as far as the way he was working. You agree with that, Devin?
I didn't really catch it that way. I mean, I didn't really see it that way. I don't honestly don't remember enough moments from the match to really kind of clarify whether or not that's what I thought. I don't really recall him ever doing anything babyfacious. To me, I mean, he seemed to be the clear heel of the match. I mean, he was working the key lock, headlock combo, or whatever the hell it was, early in the match. I mean, he didn't seem like he was working babyface at all to me, really.
I guess everybody's so used to Miz, trying to use shortcuts and cheap shots, that he was actually going toe for toe here with.
Right, he was going toe for toe for the spots, because in May it was all about him stalling and doing the cheap shot, cheating tactic stuff. That's what that match in May really was based around, was the Miz, healing, and in this match he was going toe for toe for the with the spots. But I don't think he was necessarily working as a babyface. Although, to be fair, I don't think that's a crazy notion, because they've the whole him as the new dad kind of thing is he's been sort of babyfaced with that over the last week because of the birth of his child. So I don't think that's a crazy thing to think, but that wasn't the impression I got.
Well, I don't think there's no way they're going to do it, because I gotta think in the shakeup he's going back to SmackDown for Bryan. I mean, I gotta think that's going to happen.
Oh, sure.
So we'll see how that plays out, as they'll do that whenever they decide to do it. All right, next match, and here's where the shock begins. SmackDown Women's Championship. Charlotte Flair defending against Asuka. Charlotte's entrance for this match was amazing, and it played off of her being one of Triple H's maidens in an entrance a few years ago at WrestleMania. She was able to do it as a queen, and she had some big jacked up dudes behind her. So props to her and them for doing that. And Asuka, I mean, Asuka's Asuka, and this was a really, really good match. I mean, they were hitting each other pretty hard, and they weren't taking it easy on each other. Got to give them that. And the finish was very, very interesting as Charlotte had injured her shoulder and she used the figure eight with one arm, which was something to see her maintain her balance like that. And Asuka tapped out. The streak is over in New Orleans, where streaks go to die at WrestleMania. Devin, I mean, I haven't been as floored on a finish on a WWE show like this in quite a while. And yeah, this one just blew my mind. It shouldn't, and probably shouldn't have, considering Charlotte was in the match, but it really blew my mind. What did you think?
The match was fantastic. It was an excellent match. I've seen some, I saw people saying it was the best match in the history of women in WWE. That's not true, or at least I don't. There's no truth or fact or anything, but it's certainly not something I agree with. But it was an excellent match. And there was a lot of. It was one of those matches that was clearly planned and planned out just by what they were doing, but they executed everything so nicely and they worked so snug and there was a lot of great drama and both of them had great performances. The ending, my mouth was definitely agape and I couldn't believe it. I mean, it shouldn't be surprising because it's Charlotte, like you said, and I pissed a few people off when I said that she's the most forced wrestler down our throats in the company, and I still think that's true even after Brock's victory. But although it's close now, boy. But she, and it's funny because Charlotte's, in defense of Charlotte, at least she works hard and actually cares, unlike Brock Lesnar.
Absolutely.
But so I want to be fair to her in that regard.
It's not her fault.
Right. It really. She seems like a genuinely nice person too. It's she's just lucky she's got the last name Flair. And she's better be happy for it. Because she's getting a lot of advantages for that. If Charlotte had won by pinfall and they had done a simple handshake, or Asuka was frustrated and slapped the hand away like she did to Ronda at Rumble or something, and there might have been a tease of a future rematch, I would have been annoyed and pissed off, and I wouldn't have been happy, but I think I would have been able to get over it, before sitting there for the next 30 minutes and kind of fuming. But when you tap her out with one arm, basically, balancing on one arm, tapping her out, and then Asuka cheerfully congratulating you and basically getting down on her knees and kissing her ass. To me, that was just garbage and terrible. Like it was such a forceful way to put Charlotte over. I thought it was pretty indefensible. I mean, it was pretty bad. Like. And I don't know what you do with Asuka. I mean, she didn't win the title, so she's going to have to go back to Raw where she's beaten everybody and swept the whole roster. What the fuck do you do with her there? I mean, like, unless she officially moves to SmackDown on the shakeup, which could happen,
yeah,
and might happen, and I hope happens, for her sake and for interest, and just for my interest's sake, because she's beaten everybody on Raw. What's the point of her staying on Raw at this point? I mean, I think Asuka's a great wrestler and has great charisma, and someone did tweet, and point out that she's talented enough to overcome this loss, and I also want to say that Asuka losing is a good thing, I think, overall, because the undefeated streak gimmick can become a massive burden. But I also don't think she should have lost here because I still don't think she's completely been programmed into the minds of everybody in the WWE universe as a major star quite yet. I don't think she's quite there, and I think that this really set her back by not winning this match. This really hurt her momentum. I'm trying to play a little bit of devil's advocate against myself because I do think getting the loss out of the way is a good thing, but I'm not sure how they rebound from this for her at all. But on a more positive note, the match was excellent.
Yeah, it was a really damn good match. All right, Dylan, the streak. Do you think it should have ended? A. B. Do you think that Asuka should have won the title before the streak ended? That way she could at least been champion. And C. I mean, where do we go from here? So what do you think?
The streak should not have ended. Certainly not the way it did. I agree with Devon that had it been a pinfall, I still wouldn't have liked it, but I feel that it would have been. It's something you could live with, especially if they had gotten like 5 more minutes and it really kicked into another gear. Not that it wasn't a great match, because I think it. Here's the thing: this is one of those matches that probably was great, but the finish was so bad that like my immediate response was just to want to, like fuck the writers to eternal hell. I didn't even care if the match was good because the finish was so bad. They've spent 2 years building up Asuka. I tweeted right before the match. This was a huge match for her, and tonight was the night where they could have made her a legend. Okay. It boggles the mind that the WWE is so committed to their own narratives that they would throw away a 2-year-long build on this match. Now,
a 3-year-long build later. Oh, sorry.
Sure, well, fair enough. People can say, well, I mean, this was the payoff all along to lose to Charlotte at Mania, and you know what? You're probably right, but that is very stupid. Think about this. If this was the fucking plan, there was no point for her to forfeit the title in NXT. Just have Ember Moon beat her. Mm-hmm. What's the fucking point? Like, to feed Charlotte Flair just because Triple H is friends with Rick? I mean, come on. Like, this is like this narrative. And look, I want to make this clear. I think Charlotte Flair is a very good wrestler. Actually, in fact, at times she could be a great wrestler. I think it's very likely she hasn't even reached her full potential as a wrestler because she still has those moments in every match where she looks like a deer in the headlight and she loses it for a second and she's entirely dependent on her opponent to pick up the pieces. But you know what?
That Spanish Fly was scary.
It sure was. But you know what? She does carry herself like a star. She does have a good look. She is a hard worker. She wants to be good, and she is good. So this is not. It's not so much that it's about Charlotte herself, but it's about the narrative the WWE has created around Charlotte Flair. They have dedicated the entire women's division around the idea that Charlotte Flair is a messianic figure. She's God. No one can go before her. All narratives are about her. Everything revolves around her. She's what people pretend Roman Reigns is.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could say, well, people can say, well, she lost on TV to Natalya. Okay, maybe she just wanted to know what it was like to lose to somebody with inferior talent, since she in so many occasions she's on the other end of that equation. I don't know. Okay, but the point is, it's really not about Charlotte. Maybe she we hear things about people all the time. And some of them are bullshit and some of them's true. And I don't want to project and put the blame on her because ultimately it really isn't her fault. But the reality is she has almost completely killed my interest in the women's division on SmackDown. She's been a terrible babyface champion. She's not a good baby. She should never be a babyface.
No, absolutely.
Okay? Yeah. She's a very good heel. She's a good heel promo.
She's great as a heel.
She's a horrific babyface promo. Probably the worst in the company. It's shockingly terrible. To the point where I can't even believe they allow it to air on television.
Asuka was better than her as a promo.
Asuka is a better promo than she is. As a babyface, and she's a great heel promo. Why is she not a heel? If you wanted to have her beat the streak, if you're so wedded to this narrative of she doesn't lose on pay-per-view and she's the best overall women's wrestler ever because her daddy's Rick and Rick's friends with Triple H, if you wanted to do that, if that's the narrative you wanted to do, just have her be a fucking heel and cheat to win.
Mm-hmm. Another thing is have her actually have a year that there's have her actually have a memorable year,
yes,
because the last calendar year she did nothing. Now, part of that was Rick was sick in the hospital.
Sure, and God bless, by the way, God bless her for taking the time off to take care of her father. She deserves a lot of credit for that because a lot of people wouldn't do that. Okay,
and I actually,
but here's the thing. Okay, they've created a situation where I don't even want to see her on my TV, and that's not good. The reaction that a lot of people have for Roman Reigns is how I feel about Charlotte, and I think it's increasingly how a lot of people feel about Charlotte. And it sucks because she is good, and there's no excuse for it. They can't let this be an organic thing. And this whole narrative of her being the best overall woman, I mean, come on. Like, it just let it be if that's a thing. It doesn't, let it become itself. The hardcore fans are what drove the women's revolution. That is a fact.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying that there are not casual fans who are into it now. I'm not saying that there are. That's absolutely true. That's beyond dispute. That's what's taken it to the next level. But the hardcore fans are what has driven the women's revolution. Asuka is the choice of the hardcore fans. That's who people want. Okay. Period. People want the match that people wanted to see, the inevitable, logical match to build, was Asuka, the undefeated person who everybody believes is a badass. They chant, Asuka's going to kill you when you come out. She's over. It's not like she's not over. She's having a great year. They want to see her versus Ronda Rousey. They don't want to see Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey. Now, don't get me wrong. Maybe they'll be able to figure out a way to build that in a compelling way because God knows they're going to spend the next year, or at least I would assume based on this finish, they're going to spend the next year telling us that Charlotte's the best women's wrestler ever so that Ronda can knock her off. Or at least till August, maybe at SummerSlam they'll do it there. But the point is, that will be the build. That will be what they do. But why do that when you have a much more obvious and easier to tell story right there with Asuka, who's a fan pick? Fucking stupid. It makes no fucking sense. Whether you think Charlotte is good or bad is irrelevant. Whether you think she's a great performer or not is irrelevant. It is dumb. It's dog shit. This is TNA level garbage. And it is indefensible. The match itself was very good. Probably great. I don't care. I don't care that a great women's match happened at WrestleMania because the finish was so fucking stupid. And it's not, look, from a psychological standpoint, the finish was great. Her arm was worked over. She didn't use it. She sold it. She worked hard. They did great. I mean, don't get me wrong. But from a perspective of getting to a point that is logical, it makes no sense. I don't even know what you do with Asuka, as Devon pointed out. I mean, I don't know what you do with her. I actually think it's going to be very hard to reheat her up because even though Charlotte is very protected and there's this narrative around her, as Devon pointed out, it's not like she's done anything this year. So I don't know. I mean, this is just crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. This might have actually been the best match on the show. I don't know. I can't say. Because I was so irritated by the finish that I couldn't enjoy it.
Well, two things at the end really, I don't know, it was really interesting to see. The Asuka, deal where she congratulated Charlotte after the match, which, I mean, yes, I know they're both baby faces, whatever, respect, whatever, but that's not Asuka. That shouldn't have happened. And B, as this is just finished, they have Rudy Charles run out to go tell John Cena, who's sitting in the crowd, has been shown all night long, that The Undertaker was supposed to be there. And John Cena goes running like Wataru Inoue or a young Katsuyori Shibata up the ramp, not down the ramp, like a madman, while Charlotte and Asuka are still out there in their post match. Amazing that they did that. I thought the timing of that was wild because they were still out there, taking in the adulation from the fans, and the fans immediately, their attention went to John Cena as he's running up the ramp. Amazing optics. But I totally agree. Charlotte should not be a babyface. She should be a heel. She was way better as a heel on Raw when she was the Raw Women's Champion. It's going to be interesting, and this makes that Natalya win on television look like an even dumber move than it was at the time, because goddamn, how do we let Natalya beat Charlotte on TV and yet Asuka can't beat her? Jesus, I don't know. I really don't know. But Charlotte and Rousey is the money match in their minds, and whether it happens at SummerSlam or next year's Mania, who knows? But they see that as the match because they see Charlotte as, the face of the women, like you guys have said. And I gotta think Ric Flair is sitting there in his heart of hearts thinking to himself, God damn, why was I never booked like this?
You're not kidding. I mean, I like, here's the crazy thing is, almost every ranting, foaming out the mouth thing that I just said could have been severely mitigated or completely taken away if she was just a fucking heel, which she's better at anyway. I mean, she could have won the match as a heel and it would have sucked, but you know what? There's at least an out there that makes some sense. It's just, why would Asuka tap out?
And then congratulate her.
It just doesn't. It doesn't fit what they built, and it all in the service of protecting somebody who, in all likelihood, to get to a match that makes less sense than just doing Asuka and Ronda first. So, what can you do?
Well, here's the thing, and you brought up, Triple H and Ric Flair's relationship. This, to me, though, was a battle of Vince versus Paul, because we know that, he's gone on record and said this, Asuka was the most important person in NXT. And Paul protected her so strongly there. And this just feels like Vince saying, no, goddamn, Charlotte is our woman, and she's going to go over. This totally feels like a Vince call. Totally. So, we'll see.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but listen, I'm just very skeptical about the entire enterprise. And I can tell you, if the idea is to go all the way to Mania with Charlotte and Ronda as the main event, it won't matter. It's going to sell out no matter what. I mean, but speaking purely from my fan perspective, it's difficult for me to envision any scenario where I give a single fuck about that match as like a co-main event type thing in a year. Maybe not impossible, especially if they turn Charlotte heel, but boy, it's just one of those things where it's like all you'll be thinking about is what might have been, and look at the bodies left in the wake of Charlotte. It's not her fault. I'm not suggesting she's politicking, but look at the bodies left in the wake of her push. Does Becky Lynch matter at all anymore? No.
Well, she hasn't mattered in a year.
Sasha and Bayley were bigger stars at NXT level than she ever was. And look at them now. They're another one bites the dust.
And again, that feeds more to the narrative about Vince's opinion of Charlotte over anybody else's. Is yes, like you said, when it came to NXT, Charlotte was at best third in the pecking order of the four, at best. And we see what happened once they got to the main roster. All right, enough about that. Next match, 4-way for the U.S. Heavyweight title. Randy Orton defending against Jinder Mahal, Uncle Bob Roode, as Rusev called him in the Hall of Fame, and Rusev on Rusev Day at Rusev Mania. And Aiden English pulled a Rick Rude here. He had hair at the beginning of the show. As in the Battle Royal, he was in the Battle Royal. He had hair. He comes out with a shaved head to do the entrance for Rusev this match, and that was amazing. And the crowd was into it for that part. But it was interesting to me as the match went along. The crowd loves chanting Rusev Day, but when it came to the stuff that going on in the match, they weren't as hot for Rusev here as I thought they would have been. But that's another story. It's a good match, short, which it kind of needed to be. I did love that Jinder's outfit looked like he should have been in a cast of a Laurence Olivier film. But I mean, it was really, really good for what it was. But this told a story, in my opinion. Randy Orton and Bobby Roode didn't do a job here. Jinder got the win on the guy that Vince has always had a hard on for in Rusev, who happened to be the guy who was the most organically over guy in the match and almost in the whole company right now. So, yeah, interesting story to be told there. But Dylan, your thoughts on the match and Rusev Day, Rusev Mania didn't go so well for him.
I mean, again, this was just terrible booking. I'd be hard pressed to think of a major show that had more obviously stupid booking decisions than this one. I mean, even if you think I'm totally out to lunch and nuts and Charlotte should have won, and even if you think that's just me being an asshole, and I'm sure some people listen to this will, I don't know how you can possibly defend Jinder getting a win over Rusev of all people in this match. I mean, that's like, that to me feels like such an obvious not the right call that I don't even know where to begin. The match itself was fine. I think Devon on Twitter said that it was just a bunch of guys doing their spots, and that's exactly what it was. It was inoffensive, not bad enough to be bad, not good enough to be good. It was merely there. There was a brief moment where Rusev really got the crowd behind him, and things really were kicking into gear. And then right about that time, Jinder put him down and beat him. And, I'm not one of these anti-Jinder people. People say, oh, it's a failed push with him, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know what? In some ways, I agree that it was a failed push. On the other hand, when you look at the SmackDown brand, it's like, you've got the exposed fraud loser who can't carry anything in Nakamura that was totally any credibility that he has as a serious option was completely destroyed tonight.
Can't wait to that one.
I mean, maybe the heel turn will save him, but I mean, he's been exposed as, one of the bigger joke ideas in wrestling history. And then you look and it's like when they put the title on AJ, the show got worse. And I say that as somebody who thinks AJ's a whole lot better than Jinder. So for all the bitching about Jinder and his push and the title win, the show was actually better when he was champion. I mean, it wasn't good, but it was better than it got. Do I think he's going to elevate the U.S. title? Hell no. And I honestly don't like the decision to put it on him. I would have preferred Orton retain it or they put it on Rusev. Obviously that didn't happen. Rusev losing was a really bad choice. It felt like just a troll of the crowd more than anything. It just, another shit booking decision.
That's pretty much how it is. I mean, these guys have, been training stuff on television for the past few weeks, and this just felt like a continuation of it, like you tweeted out. It just felt like a regular match. So, was it really necessary?
Well, I mean, it was the match was okay. I mean, it was fun. These guys hit their spots. I was still kind of fuming from the Charlotte Asuka finish. This match would have had zero heat if Rusev wasn't in it. In terms of crowd reaction, he was a savior for the match. And I'm with you, Kris. Aiden's transformation was brilliant, and I had kind of semi-recognized that when he'd come out. I was like, wait a minute, he looks slightly different than when I saw him in the Battle Royal. It was a fine little match. I mean, I like Jinder fine, but come on, like, it's just. It didn't make any sense to me. I mean, it's just I don't know. It was just not the right decision to make, and Rusev is just kind of, I don't know. I mean, he's trying his damnedest with everything they give him, and a lot of times they give him shit, and he gets himself over, and they never push him. So,
Married to the wrong woman.
I mean, yeah, you know, and I hate to say that because Lana is, you know, she's, you know, certainly probably has some character flaws and stuff like that, but that's on WWE. You know, it's not Rusev's fault, and you know, they shouldn't punish him for, you know, the actions or the rumored actions of your significant other.
Oh, it ain't just about that.
That's,
It's one of those things that, you know, Vince doesn't think that a guy like him should marry her. That's a Vince thing that has happened years and years.
I know. It just sucks for him. You know, but as the quality of the match was fine, and you know, it was just kind of a whatever match.
Yeah.
Didn't hate it, didn't love it.
Yeah, it was just there, and I guess it was a needed respite. Yeah, sometimes you need that on these shows. You need that respite, and that's what this was. All right. Next, we get a match that I was definitely interested in the placement of this match because it went earlier than I expected. The guy went right around 9 o'clock, a little bit before 9 o'clock. So, Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Oh my God, this was a match. If you want to create the perfect WrestleMania match, in my opinion, because WrestleMania is a different show. It's the Super Bowl. It's everything. It is a different type of show than anything else. It's about the spectacle. It's about the crowd. It's about, you know, getting the mainstream media attention for your big match. I mean, it's everything rolled into one. This was the perfect WrestleMania match. And Ronda Rousey, you know, she's had her shaky moments on television as far as when she's talking or whatever. But one thing we couldn't deny is when it came time to get physical, she had the charisma. And she showed it here in spades. She comes off with such a presence when she's in the ring. It's crazy. And for someone who has never had a pro wrestling match proper, yeah, she's been training and, you know, having training sessions, what have you. She looked like a natural in there. I mean, yes, she wasn't doing a whole lot of wrestling moves, but the way she carried herself, the way she was doing everything, she came off as a complete natural in this. Kind of like Kurt 20 years earlier in a lot of ways. But Triple H and Stephanie were great. So great here. I know people are going to complain about how, you know, Stephanie was supposed to look strong and, you know, break out of Ronda's submission holds better than any of Ronda's opponents in UFC ever did. Guys, come on. It's wrestling. It's Stephanie McMahon. Of course it's going to happen like that. But I don't think this match could have really went any better. I mean, to me, this was the best match on the show. As far as everything included, this was the best match on the show. The fans got their satisfying ending. Triple H was tremendous in this match in every way. Devon, what did you think about this?
Yeah, this is probably my match of the night too. I did realize after Adrian Nakamura, which was really the only match that could really get to that point. I'm pretty sure this was the longest match of the night, which once again, Triple H had the longest match of WrestleMania, and I howled with laughter for a minute. But it was a great match and super entertaining. I laughed and screamed and hollered and had a great time watching it. And I thought Triple H and Stephanie did an excellent job and did exactly what they should have done, which was cheat the entire match. I thought they did, because it's a Triple H match, they went long. So I thought that they did a good job working a long match, considering the context and the people that were in it, by just basically having a free for all action match where they sort of switch, lots of dramatic camera angles and free shots of, of people's facial expressions. And these are the, 4 people who are very good and very emotive and very charismatic and are great at doing that kind of stuff. Very, very, cinematic. So that, they worked the best possible type of match to go 21 minutes with the 4 people that were in it. And as far as Stephanie blocking come on, all the McMahons are, can fucking go toe to toe with the wrestlers. That's been established for years. It's something, that I've, learned to accept, somewhat begrudgingly, but it is what it is. And I think it's actually kind of brilliant that they built to the armbar, because the pop when she finally got it on was huge, and they did a really good job of like I said, the cinematic, dramatic storytelling of Stephanie, like frantically apologizing and Ronda slowly breaking the grip and stuff like that. This was a super entertaining match, perfectly done. The crowd was up the entire time. Ronda was amazing, especially her physical charisma. Her offense was highly entertaining and chaotic, but it was fascinating to watch and chaotic and exciting in a fun way. And I'll admit, I was concerned because she does, she was a little reckless tonight offensively, but especially in the build up and the few times that she got physical, I was a little concerned about her recklessness. But she was great here, and I think my favorite spot of the match was when she beat the shit out of Triple H, and the strike exchange. That was hilariously great. But yeah, this was a match of the night for sure. I loved it.
Had to happen. Because he is so great at selling for her. He did exactly what he needed to do, and it just the crowd was eating everything up, and that's what you want. This couldn't have worked out any better, Dylan, for everybody involved here, I thought.
Yeah, this was great, and part of it was that I had really low expectations for this. I watched the show, about 85-90% of the show, Lana was with me, and my mom. We watched it together as a group, and Devon will be shocked to know that our mother watched the entire show.
God, that's
wow,
actually surprising.
That does not happen. But and you should have heard what she had to say when Roman lost. But we were talking about it, and we all sort of predicted, all right, this will probably be somewhat entertaining, but also a shit show. That was kind of my expectation going into it. And it ended up being hands down my favorite thing on the show. I'm gonna say it. I'll be the first guy to rip Triple H. I know that may be a surprise to you, Chris, but I'll be the first guy to rip Triple H when he deserves it. But he deserves a lot of praise for this. He showed a ton of ass in this, which my biggest criticism of Triple H being the top guy when Vince eventually goes has always been my fear that Triple H will want to be involved, and unlike Vince, he's not willing to take his ass kicking. And he totally was here. You got to give it to him. I'm gonna be honest about it. He absolutely did what he needed to do in this match to make both Kurt, who's physically shot, and Ronda, who's as new can get, look credible and threatening. To me, the most impressive thing about Ronda's performance was actually her selling. There was no.
Her bumping was very good too.
Her bumping was great, but there was no.
Yes.
There was no tendency to try and get back in the fray. She understood. Okay, because there's a lot of ego at play with some of these people, and she's certainly somebody with an ego by all accounts. And taking a post shot on the floor from Stephanie McMahon, or being pulled out of the ring and landed face first by Triple H. In the narrative that's been constructed about Ronda, that's not something you're selling for a minute or 90 seconds. But in the context of the match, she was smart enough to know, okay, that's my job. And you might say, well, yeah, she just did her job. Well, the point is, there was every reason to think that maybe she wouldn't, or that there would be timing issues, and there weren't. Whoever laid out the match was genius. People can rip the Stephanie stuff. To me, it was hilarious. Stephanie having a better ground defense than 95% of women fighters in mixed martial arts was like literally the best thing on the show. I mean, like, I'm just picturing like Stephanie rolling around with Diego Sanchez learning how to turtle up somewhere in preparation for the show. Like, honestly, to me, that was literally the most entertaining thing on the show. I thought Stephanie was great in this match. People on Twitter were comparing her to Arn Anderson. You know what? She was wrestling like Arn Anderson. Like, I mean, that's not a joke. Like, and you could say, oh, she blocked the armbar. Should that have been the way Ronda's first match went? Honestly, no. But if you're going to do this sort of spectacle match, the answer is yes. And with the decision that they decided to make for her first match, the degree of entertaining, do you have to throw a little bit of logic out of the window? Sure. Did I laugh my ass off and clap and enjoy the whole thing? Yes, I did. Even when I thought it was about to go off the rails, it didn't. You had crazy stuff like Kurt Angle taking hands down the stupidest bump of the entire night. Everybody else is taking these devastating looking bumps on the floor, and like Kurt, by the way, to go back, I think Charlotte Flair and Asuka might have been listening to Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali call their match since they did like 5 of their sequences. But,
yes, they did.
But I have to. I mean, Kurt. On the one hand, you don't want to see it because you're like, Jesus, you know how close this guy is at any moment to being paralyzed. On the other hand, his commitment to get that match over as a guy who could barely move was
he
impressive.
has to turn his whole body.
Yeah, I mean, that bump, it was like this weird cannonball bump where he skipped across the table, like, literally like a rock across a pond. Like, I mean, it was a crazy, fun performance from all 4 people. Obviously, the right person won in the end. I have to tell you, I was terrified that this match was going to have something was going to happen and Steph and Triple H was going to win. And there was a moment where I did think that was going to happen in the match. Funny enough, this might have been the only match on the show that didn't have a fuck you finish. Like,
it was
like
pretty much.
It ended up being, absolutely perfect, wonderfully crafted. Is it going to be for everybody? No, I will say that. I do think that there are going to be people who are just going to be repelled for this, either because they don't buy into the characters or they don't like certain things about the way things were done. But honestly, I thought this was great.
Like I said, it's the perfect WrestleMania match. I mean, it's exactly what you want. And Kurt Angle, I read people on Twitter talk about how he had been just working out like an animal to be physically ready for this match. It's in physical condition. And dude, you got to give it that motherfucker. I mean, those spots on the floor when he was being thrown into the ring steps head first. God, I mean, and just to some of the stuff he was doing. I mean, hey, the guy, he dedicated himself, like you said, to getting this over. And it worked. And it totally worked. And Triple H, it is so funny looking at Triple H these days, and how great a physical condition he is. When 10 years ago he was fat, he was fat Triple H. But somebody said he liked Tommaso Ciampa's dad here tonight. That's how good he was, and the facial hair and bald and all that stuff. So yeah, this was tremendous stuff. And yeah, I mean Ronda has said on record that she is in this for as long as she thinks she can do it. She's in for the haul. She wants to be a wrestler. She wants to work on the road. I mean, she's not coming in just to do these big types of matches. She wants to be an active member of the roster. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here with her. They have something. And I mean, I don't think I can't say I don't think of what we've seen tonight, but they can't fuck her up. I mean, they got something there, and she's got the mainstream appeal. She's got the cachet that they want and they love. So we'll see, but it's a great debut, and you couldn't ask for better. So props to them.
Better than Brock Lesnar.
Oh boy, we'll talk about that later. Next, we get the three-way for the SmackDown Tag Titles as Usos, New Day, Bludgeon Brothers. Usos finally getting on the WrestleMania main show. New Day wacky intro with the little people coming out dressed as pancakes. Bludgeon Brothers, I think that their new gear involved like getting new but new sledgehammers maybe. And Usos are still wearing their regular gear, so it wasn't that new for them. But this was a short match, and it felt like it was kind of like the U.S. title match before it. Where the guys went out there, they worked hard. All action for the time it was in there, and the Bludgeon Brothers. Eric Rowan just killed. Who was it? Kofi with the power bomb? I can't remember.
It was Kofi, yes.
Kofi killed Kofi with a power bomb. Then they hit the big super bomb for the win. They were built to look like dominant monsters, which was the exact perfect thing to do. And this is again one of the rarities on this show, the actual right thing they did booking wise. So I got to give them credit for that. Bludgeon Brothers win the belts. We'll see what happens from here, but right decision totally. So props to the writers on that one. But Dylan, I know Usos finally get on the show, but wow, they just got their asses kicked in this match pretty much.
I mean, had the rest of the show been booked differently, this is one of these things where I actually think this is justifiable. But the problem is the whole other rest of the show was so terribly booked that when you're looking back in hindsight and thinking about this from a review perspective, it's impossible not to sort of wish fulfill backwards and be like, why didn't they just make this a fucking TLC match? Or why didn't they do something with this so that you could protect the Bludgeon Brothers a little bit and not have them sell a lot and still have them win in the end, but you could let us get some crazy spots. These guys arguably had the worst position on the entire card too.
Oh, this was the death slot.
Because it was right after all the craziness with Ronda, which was hands down the most over thing on the show. And, it was fine. It was well worked. And I actually thought it was the right match from the perspective of you want to build the Bludgeon Brothers as this all-time ass-kicker team, which is clearly the goal, or at least I shouldn't say clearly because I don't know what they're doing, but it presumably is the goal, okay? Then this actually probably was the right decision to do a version of this, right? The problem is it was in a bad position on the card, and when at the time when you're watching this live, you're thinking, okay, I don't love that, but it makes sense from a booking perspective. And yeah, there's been some booking stuff I didn't like up to this point, but you're coming off that big high of the Ronda tag, and you're projecting forward, and you're going, okay, this was fine. It established the Bludgeon Brothers. The work was good. It wasn't the match I had in my head, but so what? We've still got Nakamura versus AJ. we've still got Brock versus Roman. You're thinking about that, and even to and so in your mind, it at the time it didn't feel that bad. Looking back, I still think it's a justifiable decision, but it just feels like, God damn, they couldn't have given us one other thing worth a shit on this show. It feels more like the beginning of the end of the show now in hindsight than it does a smartly booked piece of business to get the Bludgeon Brothers over.
Yeah, and then that ended up being about it. The second half of the show takes a dip for sure, but Devin, God, the Usos and New Day have been going against each other, back and forth for forever, and they've had a tremendous feud, one of the all-time great tag feuds in the history of the promotion. But it's time for something different. And the Bludgeon Brothers are that something different, and they've got the belts, and now we see how they do now as champions, and what's going to happen on SmackDown with some future challengers. So times they are changing.
Yeah, I feel bad for these guys because this was the death slap of the show. A lot of times the semi-main event is the death slot. But this year's semi-main event was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, maybe in the history of wrestling. But we'll get to that later. But this was the death slot this year, and I feel bad for those guys. They all worked hard. They clearly tried to work an exciting spot fest, but the crowd just wasn't having it. You could tell people were going to the restroom and going to get snacks and shit because, I mean, the match before was, I mean, they had already seen a tremendous opener, a shocking finish, that had people going crazy in the SmackDown Women's title match, and Rusev had already wrestled, and they had that crazy, mixed tag. So I mean, the crowd was just too worn out to care. And I felt pretty bad for these guys, but they worked hard. They ended up having a good sprint, good strong definitive finish with the super bomb to win. I think this is a good change of pace in terms of new champs, and Harper and Rowan. They earned these tag belts. They've always been a team that's been great, and I think that that's kind of, it's they've been due a title reign, and they're finally getting one. I imagine they'll probably do a Harper Rowan versus Usos, maybe a Backlash. But I also saw our buddy New York Mike, who was in the building, say that it's possible they have a banger of a match, of a three-way match on Tuesday, and give them some good time and in front of a hot crowd and let them go 15-20 minutes. That wouldn't shock me. And I'd imagine Bludgeon Brothers would retain there, but it looks like it'll be Bludgeon Bros and Usos, maybe a Backlash, and then I'm sure some things will happen within the next few weeks in terms of a shakeup. So if not the Usos, maybe somebody else. I think the Usos need a change of scenery, and I think Raw's the place for them. And I imagine the Authors of Pain are coming up, and I don't imagine they'll be on the same show as the Bludgeon Brothers. I imagine they'll be on Raw. So there's some interesting stuff that could potentially go on in the tag divisions coming up.
Yeah, it's one of those things we have to wait and see for sure. And I think we may have a lot of rematches coming up on Raw and SmackDown from WrestleMania in some form or fashion.
Which is often the case.
Which is often the case, exactly. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. John Cena comes out next. He's in his gear. He's excited because he's going to get to wrestle The Undertaker. Well, the referee came out, said something to John. John got all upset, walked out of the ring, slipped, busted his ass as he was slapping hands with the guy with the white blazer, who always is at ringside for all these shows. Where does he get the money? I don't know. And then Elias comes out. That's Elias go out. Elias' little deal, plays a little concert, talks shit on John. John gets in the ring. John takes care of Elias. So there's your Elias moment for WrestleMania. And then we get all the silly theatrics of Undertaker, and nope, no American Badass Undertaker, just the Undertaker. Where they left the hat and jacket in the ring from last year when the lightning struck the ring, and then here he comes out with the hat and jacket on after it disappeared. Comes in and just kicks the shit out of John Cena. Beats him in 3 minutes. And you know what? Hey, I think that was probably the exact way it should have went. I mean, because John Cena had been talking so much shit on this dude. He trolled him out of retirement or wherever he was at his sabbatical if he's not retired. Trolled him out. He shows up, beats the shit out of him. Shows that, hey, goddamn it, I'm still the guy at WrestleMania. Gets get some heat back in New Orleans since that's where the streak ended. And John Cena, like I said, gets his ass kicked in 3 minutes and cements it, even if it wasn't already cemented, as the most giving top guy in the history of the wrestling business by any stretch. I mean, there's nobody like John Cena when it comes to doing business the right way in the wrestling ring. So, props to John. John was tremendous here and everything he did. But, Devin, were you kind of surprised that we got regular Undertaker and not American Badass Undertaker? I mean, that's what we all were thinking kind of going into this.
A little bit. I think it would have made probably made a little bit more sense if they had done the American Badass Taker. But then again, maybe we just worked ourselves into a shoot, especially with the Kid
Rock?
Yeah, yep. Especially with the
who didn't even show up.
Exactly. Maybe he was out body slamming Democrats. I don't know. But I mean, yeah, this was pretty much this went the way it should have gone. I think, and this was sort of the end of the show being good, or at least above the bar of good bad. This was right in the middle of the show, right at the halfway point, because the show ended right around 12:05, 12:10, I think, and Eastern. And so, it was right at the middle of the show, and it was a fun squash. Cena is, like you said, and I mentioned on Twitter, the most giving top guy in the history of professional wrestling. It's not even close. And it felt like it was the right move. He was incredibly unselfish here. Cut all these vicious promos, called Taker out, insulted him, got his ass kicked for it. He paid the price for it, and it fit the story. And I thought it was really entertaining and fun. And that was sort of the last positive highlight of the show, or a really positive highlight of the show.
Yeah. I mean, it was something. It was a moment for sure. But Dylan, I mean, Taker, he vanquished his demons from New Orleans. Cena got to have his WrestleMania match and didn't go as expected. But this is not the end of Taker now, so he's got to come back. So who do we think? Who do we think is going to be the guy to finally get rid of the Undertaker?
I don't know. I mean,
no one.
Listen. I think PCO. Hopefully, I think
Walter.
I think with the benefit of hindsight, like this is a thing. Like in the moment when this happened, I defended it. I was all in on it. This is another one that I actually think, with the benefit of hindsight and how the main event played out, I actually think it was very stupid that they did this. If so much of what was done on the show was negated by that main event finish, that it's actually astounding as I think back on it. At the time, I thought, okay, really, I mean, it certainly does make sense from a story perspective. Cena called him out. He got what he deserved, blah, blah, blah. I get all of that, right? So you're going to squash Cena, and that's fine for the spot on the show, and you really don't want Taker losing a third time at WrestleMania, and you want to remind people who Taker is, because guess what? In your main event, you're going to have the two guys that have actually beaten The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and they're going to have this big clash, and it's going to add to the moment when Roman Reigns inevitably beats Brock. Even if the fans had shit on the match as much as they did, I think, at least from a psychology perspective, there was a reason to do the match for the greater good on this show that way. Having, now with the benefit of the hindsight, as somebody who I mean, and I argued, you both know this, I don't think there was anybody who argued more loudly and strongly that they needed to do Taker versus Cena at a WrestleMania for years than me. I mean, I've been doing this for like a decade. So it's not like it's a match I didn't want to see, but he should have stayed retired. I think it was completely wasted now. I think it was dumb. I think it was a stupid decision to even have him come back at all. If they were going to have him come back for the purposes of this, with the end game of Reigns going over clean in the end, to sort of come full circle with everything in this big climactic moment. Now Brock knows what it's like to lose in New Orleans, because if all of that had played out, I think this would have totally worked. As it stands, it just felt like they were lazy. They were too chicken shit to do Cena versus Braun, which was the obvious match to do. And so we got this instead. So, it's another one of those where in the moment, at the time, I was fine with it. I actually liked it. Reflecting back, I think it's objectively stupid.
Do you think it would have went better if they would have just did, Cena and Elias as a match, and then at the end, after Cena beats Elias, Taker comes out, does his deal, leaves him laying, and sets up WrestleMania for next year, where they have like the ultimate match.
Listen. I think you can make an argument, and credit to the boy promoter for Nova Pro Wrestling, Mikey King, because he just tweeted this a minute ago as we speak. I think you could actually make an argument that if they were going to do what they're going to do in that main event, and the way things unfolded, because it's also important to remember that there were certain things about the main event that were made worse by some of the other booking decisions earlier on the show. This was a cascade. This was an avalanche effect. I think the crowd was probably going to shit on the main event no matter what, to one degree or another. I don't know if they would have shit on it as much if some other things had been different on the undercard. I mean, it's difficult to say, but I have my doubts. But Mikey said, you know what? They probably should have just put Cena and Taker on last. And in hindsight, I almost wish they just put Cena Taker on last and had him do a fucking 12-minute sprint where Cena got a little bit more offense in, but it was still a dominant Undertaker win. I actually think he's right. I think if you were going to do things like this and you were insistent on doing that match, that would have been the way to do it. As it stands, I mean, we'll get to this when we get to the Roman talk, but it's like, I mean, Roman beat him last year, and in theory, the rub was not only was he the guy that beat The Undertaker, but, he's the only other guy to do it other than Brock. He's going to conquer Brock but he was the guy that retired The Undertaker. The Undertaker unretired. I mean, Roman, not only did Roman lose to Brock the way he did in the main event, the one claim to fame he had based on last year's WrestleMania was taken from him. I mean, it honestly, it's really astounding that anybody argues that guy's ultra protected. But we'll get to that more when we get down the line. I actually do think it's probably a diagnosable form of mental illness at this stage, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm actually serious. But this match was, it's weird because I did enjoy it at the time, but it's just in hindsight, I really think it's hard to defend because of how the rest of the show went.
Yeah. And again, we'll talk more about that stuff later. Next, we had the Hall of Fame thing, and yes, Kid Rock was not there. And I think he is the very first one to no-show it, because they've been doing this where they bring out all the inductees on stage. Yeah, he didn't show up. He wasn't there. Kind of embarrassing in a way. And the way he dressed, he didn't give a shit. He didn't give a shit at all. And Vince and Kevin Dunn are such homers and marks for him that's the reason why he's in there anyway, and the reason why he's been on television all this time to begin with. Believe me, if they could, they would induct AC/DC in as well, but that's a whole other story. But the highlight of this, and highlight of the Hall of Fame, Jerry S. Robertson's such a cool kid. I love that kid. The gone through the stuff he's gone through, he is so full of charisma and so fun. I'm glad to see him get this spotlight that he's gotten. So, and man, when you're looking at Goldberg up there, it made me wish he was wrestling this fucking show, because it would have been he could have been in the match and it would have been so much fun on this show, especially at this back half of the show they were talking about, especially against. Remember how we talked about Goldberg and Brock last year? How great that was for what it was. It's funny how Brock has matches like that when he actually likes the guys he's working against. So we'll talk more about that as we get to it. All right. Daniel Bryan's return. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They did a tremendous video on Bryan before he come out. And he looked great shape. A little pale, but still great shape. They did a deal where Owens powerbombed him on the apron, took him out of the match for a while, which was hilarious because now Shane's got to work by himself. Oh boy. But Bryan eventually made his comeback. and he looked really damn good in there. One thing I noticed here, and I'm so glad, it looked like he's protecting himself better now in his drop kicks in the corner on the landings. Instead of landing on the back of his fucking head, he's landing a little bit differently now to try to save himself. So props to him for at least hopefully learning a lesson in that regard. But he looked good. Owens and Zayn did a good enough job in this match. I love Sami Zayn talking shit to Shane's oldest son, Declan, who wasn't taking. Declan looks like Granddaddy Vince and acted like Granddaddy Vince on the floor there.
I thought we were gonna have our second of what would become 3 fan hop the rail moments on the show.
Yes, but yeah, I mean this achieved what it was supposed to achieve. Although I was shocked. We didn't get a turn. Everybody was kind of thinking that Shane was going to turn somehow, some way. I wouldn't say it was building to that, but I mean, it was something that you could see that could potentially happen. Didn't happen. Shane and Bryan went clean. Owens and Zayn are still fired, so who knows what happens with them. But as far as a return for Bryan, Dylan, do you think this was a great return, or where do you stand on it?
Look, I have mixed feelings about this because I think they kind of booked themselves into a corner here. I believe that they, regardless of when Bryan was actually cleared, I believe that they've had a pretty good idea that the end game for all this never-ending garbage on SmackDown with Owens and Zayn was going to be Daniel Bryan for a while. I think that's why it's been delayed. I think that's why it's been so stretched out. I think that's why so much of it has been so ridiculous. I think they always thought or hoped in their back pocket they were going to have the Bryan thing one way or the other. At least some people on the writing team. Maybe not at the highest levels, but that I just believe that. They put themselves in a position where this was the logical match. The angles for it, I thought on TV were quite good, honestly. There's a part of me that understands why they structured the match the way they did. I think they wanted that big Daniel Bryan hot tag. It's easy to forget now, but what really got Daniel Bryan over to the level that he was over was the hot tags as part of Team Hell No. I mean, yes. That's really what got him over to the degree that he got over. And I think the idea was we're going to give the fans that. That's the idea. We're going to give them that moment back. And it's going to, and to that end, I thought it succeeded. I will say that Shane's punches were bad as usual, but his up kicks looked quite impactful, actually. Some nice footwork by Shane. I joked on Twitter that his kicks look better than Loki's did this weekend. And that's just true. I don't think that's deniable. That's just a fact. Look, I don't know how you rate this match because it's one of those things where on the one hand, I want to give them credit for not being so stupid that they have Bryan lose, which would have been really dumb. And I thought the booking, frankly, had put him in a position where it was inevitable, right?
Well, I was thinking Shane. I was thinking what was going to happen.
Shane was going to turn.
Was Bryan was going to accidentally hit Shane.
Sure.
Shane gets beat, and then Shane gets pissed off that Bryan's mistake got Owens and Zayn back on.
Sure, I think
causing Shane to turn.
I think a lot of people envision stuff like that. But one thing I think we have to remember, okay, and this is really important. We learned a valuable lesson 2 years ago at WrestleMania, which is the WWE does not give a single fuck about anybody or anything or any continuity or any logic or any investment from their fans. In fact, if you're a fan that invests in the WWE, they really hate you. They viscerally hate you. Because as you'll recall, we had this entire several month-long angle with Shane McMahon and building to the Undertaker match, and Shane was going to get control if he won, and then he lost. And what did they do at the top of fucking Raw the day after? Well, they just gave him the show anyway. I mean, so I'm not. I mean, people are like, "Oh God, what are they going to do with Zayn and Owens?" I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Daniel Bryan just hired him back on Tuesday. Seriously, I think there's a 50-50 chance that does happen. You know, so we probably worked ourselves into a shoot by pretending this was a competently booked long-term promotion when it came to that. I mean, they don't care about stuff like that, especially at Mania season more than any other time, actually. So, I mean, if this was a stipulation for SummerSlam, I think it actually, might have held up. But so we don't. It's hard to rate this as a match because the moment for Daniel Bryan was great, felt good, it was cool. I was glad they didn't job him out. The match was not good, but it also wasn't bad. You can question the Shane stuff, but they kind of put themselves in a position where they had to book him as the partner. Given the way the main event went, I am absolutely overjoyed at the comedy of Shane overcoming what took Brock out of the UFC to come and fight on the show and then win the match. That's highly amusing in that context. But I don't know. I mean, it was kind of cool as a moment. Not as cool as a Daniel Bryan singles would have been, but I also can't fully blame them because the way things happened. This is a weird one. It's a hard one to rate.
Yeah, I don't know if a singles was it would have been the right way to go in this first match back. Kind of like Rousey. I mean, yeah, for different reasons. I think it needed to be a tag. And now you can ease them into some type of singles match. And yeah, I could see that happening, where they just bring them back so they can beat on them some more or whatever. But when it comes to booking of this angle in particular, I mean, there has been some god-awful things that's happened this whole long run of this angle. Up until the last couple of weeks, like you said, when Bryan was actually cleared to come back, and things got a little bit better. But, Jesus, I mean, and especially when Shane was working against the two guys together. I mean, that was the perfect capper to a shit sandwich. Because, I mean, that's what we've been built up with for months and months. But, this was, Devin had mentioned earlier about, that was the last, great thing on the show. I think Bryan's return and the fans being so overjoyed about it, that this was the last.
That's true.
Of the great moments on this show.
That's
I think.
true.
So, what you think about the whole thing, Devin?
I thought the match was, fine. It was fun. I called it good, but probably, it's probably more like 2.5, 3-star range. I mean, Bryan getting taken out early, I understand why they did it. I actually think it was smart because they're trying to milk the idea of him coming back on offense. I also thought that spot where he did the drop kick, was it supposed to be where he was going to act like he had hurt his head again or something before the kip up? I don't know what that was. That was weird. But yeah, it was a fun match, and it was a great moment to see him. His interest was great, and the yes kick spot was awesome too. He definitely is changing the way he bumps and lands. That's the one thing that I noticed tonight is he's modified and changed the way he bumps and lands. Which is smart, because he obviously is whether people want to believe it or not. I think it's pretty clearly the truth is he's probably still working with a pretty fragile neck, and
he's not Kerr, but he's close enough.
Exactly. So it's good that he seemed to he's seeming to actively try to change a little bit how he works, which is a good thing. He was protected huge here, kicked out of both guys' finishers. Shane didn't break up either pin. He kicked out of both finishers. And he beat Zayn clean, tapped him out. So I think that was the right decision in the end. So it was a fun moment, great moment, cool moment, even a little surreal for a minute there. match wasn't great, wasn't terrible, but it was a fun, solid little match, and this is yeah, I think you're right. The his return and entrance and moment when he got in the ring was probably the last great moment of the show.
He was crying when he got in the ring when he's tagged in too.
Yep.
I mean, he could definitely tell the emotion was there. This is finally happening. He's finally back into it, and I mean that was great to see. Tremendous, and I was proud for him because God, he's been so awesome for all these years, and now finally hopefully he can have a great end to his career as he goes along. So we'll see what the future holds for one Bryan Danielson. All right, next up, in another kind of death slot-ish type situation here, the Raw Women's title. Alexa Bliss defending against Nia Jax. Mickey came out with Alexa. Nia getting the shit out of her. Match is okay. We got some of the silly, dramatic stuff here as well. Nia at one point said, "I loved you," and stuff like that. I was like, "Oh my god!" But now I got the win, which was the right decision. So another rare right booking call on this show. Now I got to celebrate with Aunt Ata, Rock's mother, and Rock's daughter, Simone, at ringside. So they got that moment there. But Nia Jax is now the champion on the Raw brand, and we talk about SmackDown's women's situation. The Raw women's situation is definitely interesting because your top heels are basically Absolution, but you made them look like jobbers in the Battle Royal earlier in the show by having them get eliminated early. I mean, I definitely don't know where we go from here because Raw is, other than Alexa and Mickey and Absolution, it's just babyface top heavy with Bayley, Sasha, Ronda Rousey on the show. Nia is now babyface champion. Asuka is still a member of the roster at this moment. So Devon, I mean, it's a logjam of babyfaces on that show.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, if they keep the belt on Nia, I still think there's a chance. They do a shakeup, and then in a few weeks, Carmella moves over to Raw and cashes in, and Nia gets beat up by Mickey and Alexa or something, and that happens. That's still on the table. I think they could build to, in some ways they could probably build to another Nia Asuka match. But do you really want Nia losing that? Again,
right now, it don't make sense.
Exactly. Asuka certainly can't lose that. They kind of really hurt the women's divisions in the booking tonight pretty badly. As far as the match goes, the biggest problem with this match is it was 3 times longer than John Cena versus The Undertaker. This match shouldn't have been 9 minutes. It should have been 3 minutes. It was actually a pretty good match. There was one moment where Alexa Bliss forgot how to bump and almost ripped her ACLs to shreds.
Oh, Jesus. On that press
insane.
slam spot.
Oh,
She's my God.
An idiot for doing that. I don't know why she did that. She almost destroyed herself by doing that. That was very dangerous. But there were some really good big-time spots in there. I liked Alexa's going after the eye and going after the leg, and I thought she had a good performance using the taking the advantages and doing the heel tactics. Nia looked pretty good with her big offense, and the finish was really good with the top rope Samoan drop, definitive by person one. But once again, I don't know what they do with the Raw Women's division. I don't know how they move forward from here. I think Sasha and Bayley are going to have a blood feud, and probably have last woman standing matches and shit like that, and possibly and most likely in a non-title feud as well. So I don't think they're going to be in the title picture So I don't think they're going to have Ronda in the title picture. I think they're going to have Ronda feud with Absolution. I think
That would
I
make
think that's the
sense.
next step for her. Is I think she'll probably they'll probably build to a match with her against Sonya. Maybe give her a tag partner against Absolution later on. I think for the next for her spring program, I think she's going to feud with Absolution.
Yeah, makes
I
sense.
think that was sort of kind of plugged in and sort of started 2 weeks ago when Paige came out and confronted her, and I think that's sort of. So I think they're going to build to a Ronda Sonya match. I think is the next step for Ronda. I imagine they'll probably do Asuka versus Alexa in a rematch down the line. Once again, we got to think about the shakeup, and that's going to happen. And I don't know what they're going to do in terms of the shakeup. It's hard. It's kind of hard to predict what's going to happen there. I still kind of think, I don't know what they're going to do. I still kind of think Asuka should go to SmackDown, even after the loss to Charlotte, because she's, gone on the warpath with everybody else on Raw and beating everybody there. I don't know what you do with her. She's in a pretty bad situation right now. I don't know how you follow up on that loss. I have no clue what they're going to do with either women's division, to be honest, going forward.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see what happens. Dylan Devin brought up the Carmella deal. You tweeted it out, before the match that Carmella alert here, and I agree with you. I thought this would have been a perfect time to do that, and it would have been a very cool twist on the whole situation. Everybody was expecting Carmella to cash in on either Charlotte or Asuka, but her cash in on the Raw champion definitely would have been a cool moment. But no, we can't get that, can we?
No, and I look. I'm not even a Carmella fan, but I thought that would have been the way to go. They did, they had her on the pre-show. They very carefully. She was the first person eliminated in the Women's Battle Royal,
Yes.
which was
That should have been a
I thought
sign.
pretty clearly was setting the table, But they decided not to do it. And look, I'm not somebody who wants to see Carmella hold either of the titles, so I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I will say it's, to me, kind of a weird booking thing. My guess is she'll cash in either tomorrow or Tuesday, because they've built so much in this direction that it would feel weird for them not to at this point. But it's hard to guess who she's going to cash in on. I mean, can you see her taking the belt off Nia right away? Hard to imagine. I absolutely can't see her taking the belt off Charlotte right away. So I don't know where they go with that. As for the match, I think Devin really hit the nail on the head from the perspective of the right person won. I don't think there's any question about that. And it was a good little match for what it was, but it was the absolute wrong match. This should have been a squash. And if you don't do Taker versus, my guess is that we might have seen a squash if we hadn't already had two basic squashes on the show. And if you don't have Taker versus Cena as a squash, you could have done this as a squash. Or if you don't do the tag match as a squash, you could have this as a squash. But I think because they'd already had two, I think there may have been some feeling that they couldn't get away with doing a third. And, here we are. Match was not bad. I would I'm not a star rating guy, but it was above the mean, I would say, but it wasn't what I would call particularly good either. It paid off the angle, which was nice, but it didn't pay it off in the way that would have been the most cathartic and I think would have gotten the most impact. So it kind of almost felt like a letdown for Nia. I felt like they almost cheated her out of a big moment, because if there was anybody who really could have benefited from a squash on this show, even more than the Bludgeon Brothers, based on how the feud was built, it was her. So this is another one where I thought the booking at best was mediocre. It was a mediocre execution of the correct decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and yes, I think I agree. This should have been more of a squash match for sure to really get Nia over. Kind of like you said, the Bludgeon Brothers, the dominant monster. All right. WWE World Heavyweight Championship. AJ Styles defending against Shinsuke Nakamura. The Dream Match. They haven't wrestled each other since the Tokyo Dome in January 4th, 2016. They built this up. I mean, they teased it last year in Money in the Bank. And the Royal Rumble, Nakamura wins the Rumble. He picks AJ Styles, the perfect everything, going to this match. Then we have this match. Now, we'll say this. Nakamura had a hell of an entrance, and we could say that about a lot of Nakamura matches in the big stage. He's had tremendous entrances. Then the bell rang. So all I got to say now, no questions, nothing, no build up. Dylan. Take it.
Okay, look. First of all, I'm going to preface this by saying that I actually thought this was a pretty good match, right? If this was like a main event for a random SmackDown in May or something, you would be like, oh, it's a pretty good main event. I mean, Devin, do you think that's fair before I go any further?
Oh, sure. I called the match great, but I don't really. There's my criticism of the match is. I mean, I'll let you go ahead. And I'll elaborate further. But my criticism is that the match was supposed to be billed as a Dream Match Classic, and it was nowhere near that.
Sure. There's a few things. So I do think it was a pretty decent match. It wasn't like this was terrible. I mean, that is not true. This was a good little match, right? The problem is very much what Devin just... Actually, there's really two problems for this match. The first problem is what Devin pointed out. When you build something as a dream match, it has to be executed at that level. And I think it was Alan Farrell who tweeted out that this looked like Nakamura wrestling Togi Makabe on day 7 of the G1. And I find it difficult to argue with that. The other problem with this match was for a long time there's been a segment, since even before the matches were announced, there's been a segment of fans that really felt this match should have gone on last. And I actually think this match should have gone on first, and we might be think about it differently had it. But, there was a segment of fans that thought this match should have gone on last. Now, look, what went on last was a shit show in terms of fan reaction. In some ways, even worse than this. In many ways, even worse than this. However, this was the match that was built as the dream match. We always knew that main event was going to get some weird reactions, especially when it was leaked that Brock Lesnar was going back to UFC. That was an inevitability at that point, right? This match, presumably, if the build was not very good for it, but if the match was what these hardcore fans who come all over from Mania, the very same fans that think Roman Reigns is worse than Hitler and will have everything figured out when it comes to who the WWE should push, you would think they would have reacted to this match at least the level of, I don't know, Rusev getting offense. And what happened was no one cared. I mean, no one cared. This was one of the least over matches on the show. And you could say, now you look, if you wanted to say, well, part of that is because of how late it was in the show, I actually agree with that. I think that's entirely fair. As somebody who sat through some long shows, multiple SummerSlams, Rumbles, Manias live, I get it. You do fade out. But the point is, if these guys, we've heard from a certain segment of fans, for the last 2 years, 3 years, we've heard Roman Reigns isn't the guy. The guy is X. And two of the names that come up a lot are Nakamura and AJ Styles. I'm a fucking big AJ Styles fan, okay? And at one point, I was a pretty big Nakamura fan. The takeaway from this match is, regardless of whether Roman Reigns is the guy or not, you are nuts if you think Nakamura is the guy. You have zero credibility. That is a moronic, stupid, indefensible position after this. He might be your favorite wrestler. You might connect with him the most personally. Look, the guy's charismatic through the roof. There's no question. His entrance was cool. I get why people like him. but it was demonstrably clear beyond a shadow of a doubt that after tonight, that this guy has no business as the top guy on a brand. None. He can't do it. He's not good enough. He just doesn't cut it. He's just not a good enough wrestler at this stage. Do I think he's capable of incredibly high peaks? Well, he was. I'm not even sure he's got that anymore. I think we need to really think about the fact that it just is over for him. Is it possible to have another good match or really great match in his career at a big setting? Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. You never know in the W. If you had told me that Ronda Rousey tag would be that good before the show, I'd have told you you're fucking nuts. So the answer is, of course it's possible. Do I think, though, that he's going to be capable of carrying week-to-week television with the number of high-end matches that get tremendous live responses that Roman Reigns has done over the last 2 years? I mean, come on. If you've got a functioning brainstem, you don't believe that at this point. Do I think that he's going to be able to have the degree of aura or presence that somebody like a John Cena has at this point to cover up for the fact that he can't fucking work? After tonight, no. I mean, this should have been the night where it was where people like me who've been wondering when it was going to happen, Nakamura, this should have been the night we were shut up. I don't care if the fucking match was 6 hours into the show. This should have been the night where we were shut up. And the fact that it wasn't tells me without a shadow of a doubt that this guy cannot be the top guy on any show. The match was fine. I thought AJ Styles worked very hard in the match. I thought Nakamura was fine in the match. I mean, Nakamura, he probably put in maybe about 75% of the effort that Bobby Roode did in the Mixed Match Challenge, which for him these days is a tremendous undertaking. Okay, so that sounds like damning him with faint praise, but Bobby Roode is pretty good in the MMC. So realistically, that's not bad for a guy that's been as middling as Nakamura's been, basically his entire time in the WWE after that first match with Sami Zayn. We're just at a point now where people will criticize the finish, and I think I told Devon this just this week. For a long time, I thought Nakamura should have won this match, even though I much prefer AJ Styles. For a long time, I thought Nakamura needs to win it. And in the last 2 weeks,
I thought he was.
And in the last 2 weeks, I told Devon and my brother Dustin when we talked, when we did our Mania picks, I believe I actually did pick Nakamura to win it. But I told them I thought AJ needed to win it, and it would have been a mistake to put the belt on Nakamura at this point. And you know what? I think it's absolutely true that that's the case. Now, they didn't do the match any favors by a lackluster build. Okay, I think that's absolutely true. I think this was a match that needed a heated angle, didn't have it, because so much of the SmackDown focus was on the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn thing. That's a major mistake of the booking. We know the booking on that brand has sucked for the most part, with some bright spots recently. Maybe that'll change. So we got to be fair about this. I do want to be fair about this. Maybe if they had something to heat things up, it would have been better. They shot the angle after. Maybe being heel will light a fire under Nakamura's ass. Stranger things have happened. There have been guys who were the absolute shits, are boring as hell, and then you turn them heel, and suddenly it's like a light switch. I mean, think about The Miz when he was a babyface. I mean, good Lord.
God.
So it could happen. I have my doubts because Nakamura can't really cut a promo, but it could happen. It is possible that is what will happen here. That Nakamura will turn heel and will get that blood feud. And I actually suspect that their next couple of matches are going to be better because of the fact that Nakamura is a heel. But in terms of having Nakamura be a top-level elite star, I'm talking about the tip-top. I'm talking about – because that's what people have been clamoring for, right? We're not talking about being like the Big Show but smaller and Japanese. We're talking about there are people who believe he should be at the elite level. I think tonight demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt that at the very least in his babyface iteration, there's no way that was ever going to work. He doesn't have what it takes. Maybe as a heel it will work. I have my very sincere doubts about it. As a babyface, the guy does not have the juice. He's just not good enough. And I think we saw it beyond the shadow of a doubt tonight. He's just not a good enough performer. to get the job done at that elite John Cena, dare I say it, even with the response of the main event, Roman Reigns level. He just isn't.
Yeah, I mean, the heel turn definitely is something that I think could do wonders for him. And if he can go back to being like he was when he was, the leader of Chaos in New Japan, and get that swag back. Because remember, everybody was calling him Swagske. Get that swag back, and instead of coming off as like a character of himself, like he has in WWE as a babyface the last year, maybe that can get him back on the right track. But I mean, Devin, let's be honest. The track record of Nakamura, especially in WWE, well, New Japan too, is that he has his matches where he takes a night off. He's lazy at times. He wasn't that way tonight. It just wasn't working. The structure of the match of them being baby faces did not work here. I mean, that's just a fact. And like Dylan said, maybe now that there is a heel face structure, when they do a rematch, then they'll be better. But for this moment, and especially in front of your peers, Tanahashi, Okada, these guys were in the crowd watching you, and you have this type of match. It's like, whoa, it's crazy. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been out there, on fire, wanting to show out in front of his brethren. But it didn't happen. But at least we got the angle at the end, and I guess that's the reason why we didn't have some of these other turns take place, because we had this one. And this was one that I don't think anybody was really expecting at all. Devin, were you expecting him to turn heel?
No, but I called it about 30 seconds before it happened. I could tell the body language and I thought no way they're going to do because I thought Asuka was going to attack Charlotte, and then they did the worst thing ever possible with that. And then with this, I thought, okay, they're not going to do this twice. Nakamura's turn heel, and he did. So I didn't see it coming at all until literally 30 seconds before. Because I looked over at Dustin and I said, oh my God, he's going to turn heel. He's going to attack him. And I kind of doubted it for a minute. I was like, okay, yeah, I think it's definitely happened. And then the love blow happened. So, yeah, I definitely didn't see it coming, though, at least not in the storytelling or the build leading up to the match. The match was, pretty good, very good. The finish was excellent. It was a great finish. Well done, well executed. I was glad to see AJ win. I don't think Nakamura should be WWE champion at all. For a lot of the reasons Dylan said. As far as heel Nakamura is concerned, I think he, as his mannerisms and character work was, pretty decent, from the, little bits we saw tonight in terms of his heel character. And I'm sure that'll be fleshed out a little bit more in the coming weeks. But I mean, it was, I'd rather have Minoru Suzuki come down, from the fucking crowd, and because he was there and fucking choke him out, put him in a sleeper and choke his ass out, and have a rematch from the, AJ match in the 2014 G1, which was the match of the year that year.
I was hoping Minoru was going to be in the next match, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a really good match, but it didn't meet the expectations at all. And it was, and for that, it was a disappointment. And, Nakamura had and has no business being WWE champion, face or heel, right now. And, I was satisfied to see AJ win. I think that was another right guy won scenario here. But yeah, Nakamura's not a tip top main event guy on any level. He's just not there.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting now to see how because the fans always love Nakamura's entrance, and they booed him.
They did.
At least they got the desired reaction that they needed on that turn. But yeah, we'll see where they go from here. And Nita Strauss, Alice Cooper's guitarist, hell of a job on the entrance from Nakamura. Props to her. All right, 2 matches left in the show. Raw tag titles on the line here. The Bar, Sheamus Cesaro, defending against Braun Strowman and a mystery partner. The Bar coming out on a Mardi Gras type float, throwing beads was great. I love that. And Braun then coming out and destroying said float was even better. And, there have been rumors running rampant all day long. Who was going to be Braun's partner? And the one name I was seeing bandied around the most was Dave Bautista. People were saying all this stuff that's been going on lately with Dave talking about WWE on Twitter and all these stories coming out was all a red herring and that he was going to be here at Mania doing something or maybe team up with Braun. Before the match, there was a commercial for the WWE 2K18 video game.
Chris worked us all.
Where they were pimping that they were pimping the WrestleMania stuff, the WrestleMania version of the game, and all this different thing. And the only person that was shown that commercial that was not working or yet or was booked to work was Dave Bautista.
Subliminal messaging.
So, oh shit! They just threw it out there. So I went on Twitter and said Big Dave confirmed as Braun's partner. Well, not the case. And Samoa Joe was a popular belief as well. That he's now cleared to come back. Braun and Joe had their history. Joe has history with the Bar. It kind of would make sense to bring him back in that way. But no, Braun picked out a fan. Now at this point, knowing who was in the crowd, I said on Twitter that Braun should go up and get Minoru Suzuki to be his partner. And boy, would that have been magical. And, he has other guys there. And, in fact, he walked past the NXT crew. And No Way Jose was seen noticeably looking at Braun.
I saw that, too.
And Braun was like, fuck you. And just kept going. And he went deep into the crowd. And he pulled out this kid named Nicholas, who obviously has to be the son of somebody.
He is, according to Cage Side Seats Rumors, which I just read during the podcast about
he's John Cohn's
an hour
kid.
ago. Yes, John Cohn, referee John Cohn's son. John Cohn's the ref who took the crazy bump and who refereed Big Show Braun Strowman last year when the ring collapsed and he flew out of the ring. That's
there we
him.
go.
Yeah.
So Nicholas Cohn. All right, so Nicholas gets in there and he's maybe the most over guy of the whole second half of the show. And the fans were loving, and Twitter was amazing throughout this. All the jokes about Nicholas and the State Athletic Commission and problematic tweets and all this stuff, just great banter and content that came up there, and the fans were loving it, and it was a total spectacle. Braun gets the win, as expected. He's now tag champions with Nicholas, which Dylan had a great tweet. I'm gonna save it when we talk to him about who Nicholas should end up being. That's a whole nother story. But Devin, I mean, it kind of plays into Braun being Braun that he didn't actually have a partner because Braun's his own man. He does things his way. He doesn't need guys to help him out.
Right. It was super entertaining, but also one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen, and I really still don't know how I feel about it. Braun scaring away the Mardi Gras parade was fucking hilarious, though, and maybe the highlight of the entire second half of the show. I legit laughed out loud when the giant heads of the Mardi Gras people were fleeing down the... Braun's showing a lot of range lately, being good at this comedy stuff, and it is consistent with his character. But part of me thinks and truly believes that a big reason all this stuff is happening is they have no fucking clue what to do with Braun Strowman, so they just decided, well, we don't have anything to do with him, we got to put him somewhere, so we're just going to have him basically do an entertaining bizarre comedy match where he wins the title with a kid. Like, I mean, they have no clue what they're doing with him, and they have no clue what they want to do with him. So, they just decided to throw this shit against the wall and see if it stuck and worked. That's kind of my theory about why this happened. Still doesn't really make any sense in terms of a fucking child winning the tag team championship and the semi-main event of WrestleMania. But, I mean, it was I mean, I was entertained, and Twitter was extremely entertaining during all of this, and Dylan tweeted out about 7 or 8 tweets straight that were pretty fucking funny. I mean, it was an entertaining affair. It was just I'm just kind of still stunned at the fact that John Cone, the referee, allegedly his son, although I'm sure it's true. I'm sure that is his son, because it would make sense as a plant and whatnot. John Cone's son is the fucking tag team champion now with Braun Strowman. I mean, that's like, to me, it's like, it's almost something Vince Russo would book. You know what I mean? It's completely, totally, utterly absurd. I don't know how I feel about it, although this was way better executed than how Vince Russo would execute it. To be fair.
Yeah, the kid would have turned on Braun.
There you go. Yeah, it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. And that's...
Yeah, bizarre is a good word to use for that. and I heard that Braun, really enjoys like working with children and stuff. So I could see Braun maybe, putting this idea out there, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But Dylan, this was something else. Braun got it over. The kid did a good job for what he did, considering. And the crowd ate it up. It worked. I mean, what can you say? It worked for that crowd in that moment.
Well, it was certainly a hell of a lot more over than Nakamura and AJ. I mean, I think the real lesson for the... I mean, look, we could talk about this when we get to the main event. The show's already going long, so I'll just mention this now.
Okay.
The reality is, what this match really showed was, I feel what this match really showed was, if they were going to do what they were going to do with Reigns, that match shouldn't happen, and they should have just done fucking Brock versus Braun at Mania. That was the big debate coming into this for months, even among hardcore WWE fans, people that were very supportive of the promotion. Is, should they have gone Braun this time because he was the hot hand, or do you stick with the long-term story? My argument was you stick with the long-term story. Well, if you're just going to fuck off the long-term story, which is what they did, it's unbelievably. I mean, we're talking one of the worst, stupidest decisions in pro wrestling history, not to have just done Brock versus Braun and put the title on. I mean, it's really crazy. There's a possibility of politicking, and I'm going to get to that in the main event, where I'm going to do something that I'll probably regret. But as for this match, look, was what it was. If it's weird. If this had been like a non-Plant fan, which of course that never would have happened, but if this had been a non-Plant fan, there's a part of me that would have like enjoyed it. And I did enjoy it in the moment for the total absurdity of it, right? Because it was so absurd. Totally absurd. But then I think about all the guys who didn't get a match or any meaningful spot on the show. And you think about guys like Cesaro and Sheamus who busted their ass and, were the anchors of this tag division. And Cesaro's been the anchor of the tag division for years, really. And the payoff for him is to lose to a child. Now, okay, I get that the kid didn't do anything, right? But it is kind of a fuck you to your talent. I mean, there were some people, and I don't want to say who, because some of them may have deleted the tweets when they found out that John Cone's kid was the kid in question, because John Cone does things in the WWE besides just being official. But there were some well-known indie people who did tweet out, from a wrestler perspective, why that might be disrespectful and why it kind of sucks, right? And I get their point. Yeah. In the moment, it was kind of funny. It was ridiculous. There are a lot of. I mean, to me, the funniest thing about it was we've had all the talk about the Louisiana State Athletic Commission, Okay, and granted, we were told that the WWE and Ring of Honor can basically do whatever they want, right? But there is something absolutely hilarious about Joey Janela doing a show where the first match ends with a fucking top rope pile driver, and you got PCO getting busted open and wrestling for another 15 minutes, and you've got Nick Gage flying into the crowd 2 minutes or less into his match, and it's just like they don't care about the commission at all, right? And then you watch this, and it's like, boy, Vince really don't care about the commission. Because I don't think Nicholas has blood work done. I don't think he was licensed, right? I mean, you got a wrestler hop a barricade, going and finding a, quote, fan, bringing him to the ring and having him participate in the match in a state where all the scuttlebutt beforehand was about the commission. That's pretty fucking crazy. So, I mean, it's about as crazy a scenario as you could possibly find, actually. I don't know, like, it just feels like when you think about it, this was the end game. Like, this is where they went for Braun. And now that we have the full picture and everything's unfolded, it just feels like this didn't help Braun, really. And I don't know what it means for the tag team titles going forward. And that really sucks. And, so it's like, yeah, it was certainly a cool and funny moment. I'm not going to lie about that. But it also kind of sucks in its own way. And, if this had been like a Make-A-Wish kid or something, okay, there's no way I would bury that in a million years. I couldn't. But just like a referee's kid as a plant, like the charming part of it is gone to me once you know that, like it's no longer charming. It's just another one of those things that you go, okay.
Well, I know you were hoping that Nicholas was going to end up being Nick Gage.
That's right.
His kid.
That's right. That would be an acceptable payoff. That Nick Gage would have been an acceptable payoff to a lot of things. I also said tonight on Twitter that it would have been amazing if the Undertaker never showed up and Nick Gage the fan that Nick Gage ended up fighting in the parking lot after a weekend of challenging them with John Cena at like 2 a.m. So.
I know. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens on Raw tomorrow night. I'm sure they'll have something go on where Braun will have to pick somebody.
A part of me expects a tag team tournament, but we'll see.
Yeah, it could be. All right. Now, we get to the main event of the show and the podcast.
Oh, God.
Universal Heavyweight title. Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar. Dylan, the floor is yours.
So, first things first. There are going to be people that say this match sucked. I thought it was overkill, right? I don't know that I would say I thought it was a bad match in a vacuum. If I watched this match with the sound off, I might even think it was like a 3.25 star match. Maybe even better, actually. I don't know. There was certainly some psychology playing off stuff, and they built to these finishers that would be kicked out of the course of the year, protecting both men's finishers actually quite well, both of them. We forget that for a while there, everybody was kicking out of the F5, and people were kicking out of the Spear. And then for this whole year, basically, they'd re-educated the fans that one was enough just to get to this point. And, then Roman ends up kicking out of like 5 of them, and I'm told that means Roman Reigns is actually magically protected, even though Brock took 85 to 90% of the match, busted him open hard way, totally emasculated him after Reigns was on TV calling him out as a part-timer chump, and Reigns was savagely beaten for that as well. So I'm not sure in what universe that's protecting, but apparently to some people that is. He kicked out of some finishes as a consolation prize. In fact, let me skip to that. A note on the throat thing, right? Of course, I'm just protected in the sense that he's one of the top guys there. Nobody's arguing that, right? And you could even argue that they've gone out of their way to try and create this narrative of Rome as a title underdog, because that's how so many of his matches are structured. They're trying to protect him. I have my doubts whether or not everybody might mind him. I think the evidence is overwhelming for that. But even if you accept the idea that that's the case, functionally, which is what matters, it is everyone that's not working. It is evident to everyone that the only time Reigns has really got over the level to is when he has been a complete shit-kicking badass, not one in this underdog sympathy guy that has never, ever, ever been how he's gotten over at the broad level. So even if you accept the premise that Roman Reigns that they're trying to protect him by having him overcome the odds, despite the fact that the guy's got like a 50-50 record on pay-per-view and has never had a substantial title reign. But even if you want to, even if that you're going with that narrative, even if that's your argument, the functional reality is he isn't protected. The best case scenario you can come up for is the WWE thinks they're protecting him and they're so stupid that they're not. That's the best case scenario. There is no scenario in which Roman Reigns has actually been protected. There's no scenario in which he's actually been shoved down people's throats in any meaningful sense. I mean, if you want to argue that the portrayal of him doesn't work and it's alienated a large segment of the crowd, I think that's kind of true, but I think even that's exaggerated. You can point to tonight if you'd like, but 52 weeks a year on Raw TV, he's the guy who gets the biggest reaction. So it's hard to even know. The whole Roman project has been a disaster and a failure because of a mistake that was made in Santa Clara, and we are still paying for it now. The whole fucking booking of the upper card in this promotion has been fucked since that choice at WrestleMania 31.
I'll say different. Here's where I'll say it all changed on whatever random television show it was when Roman Reigns was cutting those promos that Vince had wrote for him, and the one that always gets brought up is like when he said "suffering succotash."
Oh, sure.
You know,
no.
That because remember Roman Reigns in the Shield was mega over.
Listen,
because he was the shit kicker and everything. And then when they broke the Shield up, he still maintained that overness until they tried to neuter him and make him into a new John Cena.
People forget that the crowd desperately wanted him to eliminate Batista and win the Royal Rumble the year Batista won it, because they were like, well, fuck, if we can't have Daniel Bryan, at least we can have Reigns because he's also our guy too. So that's been totally lost to history. I mean, if you were a fan who didn't start watching until a year after that, and you went back and watched that now, it would be like entering the fucking Twilight Zone. I mean, you wouldn't even know what you were watching. The mishandling of this guy, this match. Okay, first of all, Brock Lesnar. Okay, now look. You know, he did take that one really good bump over the top rope to the floor, so it's not like he did nothing. You know, but Brock Lesnar, the unprofessionalism and sandbagging of Roman in the beginning of that match, particularly with those overhead suplexes on the floor, was about as bad as I've ever seen in a wrestling match at that level. I mean,
you could tell he doesn't like
that. That's the kind of stuff that you would expect to see out of a ninth tier shit, shit house Georgia shindy, right? Like that, like where you just have like some roided redneck who like works on his farm, who trained for like 2 weeks and doesn't even know how to take bumps, and he just thinks taking a guy by the head and flinging him. That's like when Devin and Dustin's friend DJ, this giant kid they knew growing up, used to fling him off the trampoline head first. Like, I mean, I don't know how you can defend that, right? Like, it's just crazy. It's crazy that that's the champion of the promotion. So did things get better after that? Yeah, to a degree when Brock got his win back, you know. And people are like, oh, Roman was gassed too. It's like, well, yeah, he just got thrown around for 10 minutes because in a horrifying, unprofessional manner, getting dropped on his head almost into the board against the fucking ring because you got this meathead, unprofessional douche who doesn't care about anything as your champion. You know, I made this point when John Cena beat Brock Lesnar when he first came back. Everybody's like, they're burning money. What a terrible decision. It's the worst decision ever. There was literally a picture, and a famous image on the F4W website, Chris, you may remember, of burning money. Burning, like, this was the most heinous sin we've ever seen. It's just unbelievable how stupid and dumb these people are. Well, the reality is Brock Lesnar has been a tremendous expenditure, and he doesn't want to do business, period. He just doesn't want to. Goldberg's his buddy. He had no mind. I mean, the only guy in the last several years that's really gotten one up on Brock in any meaningful way is a 60-year-old retiree named Bill Goldberg. That's it. I mean, no.
And the boss. The boss did.
Well, that's true. If you go far enough back, the boss did. That's correct. But basically everybody else has been sacrificed to this false god, this guy that really has not been a meaningful benefit to the promotion, at least for the last couple of years, right? Like, I think that is absolutely, like, almost undeniable at this stage.
Since Santa Clara.
Yeah, I mean, his value has been basically gone since that point, and everything still, I have very good look. I'm going to get whatever. I don't care. I really don't give a shit right now. So I'm never going to work for the WWE, so I don't give a fuck.
There you go.
When I have people in and around that company texting me and messaging me when a match is going on and saying that it's a fucking embarrassment, and they're embarrassed to be there, and they're embarrassed to be involved, right? Like, what the fuck? This is, it was just an absolute shit show. And, I don't blame really the fans, right?
Here's my opinion of it real quick. I think a large percentage of that group of fans came into that match wanting to hate that match.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any question. I actually think when the UFC thing was leaked, I actually think that was the death knell for that match having any chance with that crowd. I actually think that was the absolute death knell. I also believe that was a political decision, because I'm going to get really dumb and I'm going to say I have very good reason to believe that the finish for this main event was changed right before they went out the curtain. And I don't know why or how that politicking was done, or if it was even politicked at all, if it was just a Vince thing last second. But I'm almost positive that is the case for multiple reasons. And I don't know even what the end game is here. I know that it's the chaos that we saw in that building was also chaos backstage. It was not just on camera. It was not just in the ring. It was not just with the crowd. And that's the sign of a promotion that's lost control. They've lost control of their own destiny with this at this point. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. We saw it with the Owens and Zayn thing and the month-long bullshit that was that. And that was bad enough. But it's worse when the Brock situation is just completely out of hand. I warned everybody after the debacle with Braun that this match, no matter how well it was built, could be a disaster. That we could have a major crisis, and that's exactly what happened. It's this company. I mean, there's no reason, if you're not sure that you're going to put the title on Roman Reigns, you can't book this fucking match. Okay? That's what it comes down to. If you don't have the balls to just have the courage of your convictions and pull the trigger on this guy here, you cannot book it. Just do the fucking Brock and Braun match. Even if Brock goes over again on Braun, it's smarter than doing what they did here. I don't think they should have done that. But this was the worst possible thing they could have done. They did not have to do this main event. They had another option. Instead, they went with this main event, and they made the worst possible decision that they could have made, which was to have a visibly gassed and unprofessional Brock Lesnar, who looks like he'd stroke out after a fucking 40-yard dash.
He was red as Nakamura's pants in the match.
It was
began.
Unbelievable. And he's out here. This shit is going on, and you have him throw around this guy that you have invested a lot of time in, even if you ain't done it very well, to the point where you look like you hurt him. Then he busts him open hard way. Yeah, it was clearly part of the match, but still, you're sacrificing this guy's physical well-being, a potential concussion. I mean, Brock murdered him with that elbow. Let's be honest here. You got Daniel Bryan, who just came back from all this shit, and you got Brock Lesnar in the main event for at least the second time now, throwing a nasty elbow deliberately to bust somebody open. I realize it's storyline, but how fucking dumb can you be? This you're sacrificing everything to this guy, and for what? What's the payoff? Who's going to beat him? Like, what? At this point, you can't stretch the Roman thing out another year. I mean, if you think it was bad this year, there's no way. Roman Reigns is DOA. I mean, if it's me, I take him off TV for months. I don't even think I think they'd be crazy to put him on Raw tomorrow. What's the benefit? It's just an all-time level stupid booking decision. I was in the building at SummerSlam when they did the deal where Brock just pummeled Randy Orton, busted him open, and the reaction of that crowd that night was something to behold. And the reaction of the crowd tonight was on a different level. You got the huge percentage of the crowd that just fucking hates Roman, can't stand him, right? But they're over Brock too. And I don't know that I believe Braun Strowman is the guy. I'm convinced to some people, right? But I do know he's the hottest hand they've got. And if you wanted to, if you were too chicken shit to pull the trigger on Reigns and complete this story that you spent 3 fucking years building because you were worried about fan backlash, or you didn't know, or because fucking Brock's a politic or whatever the fuck, you have to just do the goddamn Braun match. And what we got was a fucking disaster. Brock Lesnar is clearly a net negative for the promotion. I have no interest in what he's going to do going forward. I don't even enjoy watching him wrestle anymore. It's just a disastrous situation they've gotten themselves into. They've allowed themselves to basically be held hostage to this false idol that they've created. And I don't see a very easy way out of this, because even if we assume that Brock is going to stick around, I mean, I'm going to say this right now. I think it is well within the realm of believability that tomorrow night on Raw they go, oh, well, Brock left, we're going to have a title tournament. I hand to God, I don't think that's out of the realm. I really don't. You're talking about a guy that doesn't care about wrestling. He's horribly unprofessional. He's increasingly in bad shape. He's already got the UFC connection, Dana White in the front row or not. He does not need the WWE. They don't need him, but they've created a situation where they're fucking dependent on him, and it is the stupidest thing that Vince McMahon has ever done. And honestly, the guys deserve better. Roman Reigns deserve better. The people on the undercard deserve better. The storytelling guys deserve better than what happened. But Vince McMahon and Triple H, to the extent he's involved in this, and these guys, they deserve what happened tonight. Because this is all their fault. All because of a fucking mistake in Santa Clara, and now multiple times of not having the courage of their convictions when it comes to what they want to do with Roman. I mean, this is not just the Mania situation. This has been the booking of him throughout. Constant stop-starts, constant chicken shit. Listen, it is entirely possible that he is not the guy. It is entirely possible that he shouldn't be the next top guy. I actually kind of think it is, to be honest with you. To be perfectly candid, even though I love the guy, I'm a huge fan of him. But just make the fucking call. This bullshit where you try and stay in a medium is helping nobody. And it's destroyed the show. And now it's ruined your biggest fucking show of the year. And a card that on paper should have been a no-brainer. Will go down in history as now being this epic fuck-up in the minds of I would venture to say the majority of WWE fans.
Yeah, booking wise for sure. And yeah, I don't think it was not a coincidence that Brock did this heavy politicking when Dana White was in the house, too. Um, I I had got a message as we were recording this show that Brock had done something backstage and kind of didn't go full force like Jeff Jarrett did, which would have been funny since Jeff is there. But yeah, he pretty much held him up. I mean, that's just what I've heard from somebody that is usually reliable in these types of things. So I don't know. I don't know. It was just very, very weird how that. Because I mean, shit, you would have thought it was just an easy no-brainer that Roman was going to win this match. You know, it just this is the payoff of everything that's gone on over all these years, and it's the coronation of Roman, but we didn't get it. And yes, I mean, the crowd would have shit on it anyway. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if you stay true to what you're supposed to do. You know, I mean, it's gonna be tough. And what you said about a possible title tournament. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. I had also heard months ago that Brock was going to face Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam for the Universal title. Lashley supposed to debut on Raw at the Mania to start that up. So that's now definitely in play. I had also seen before the show, going into it, that was the talk that they wanted Brock to be in UFC as the Universal Champion. And that's to complete stupidity on their part. They do that because I mean, I think if Brock is at UFC, he's gonna get his ass kicked. So they make you look even weaker then with that chance of that happening. So it's amazing to me the obsession that Vince has over Brock Lesnar. People talk about Roman Reigns and stuff like that, and how God he's Vince's boy, and he's been so protected. Shit, if Roman Reigns has been super protected and taken care of for all these years, I hate to see the people they're trying to bury. I mean, Jesus Christ. Look at Roman Reigns' record in pay-per-views. Like Dylan said, it's not good at all. It's terrible. It's probably below 500. I mean, it's ridiculous. So the guy is not what everybody thinks he is, but that narrative has been enforced for so long. Because after, like I said earlier, after they broke up the Shield and Roman went solo, and they wanted to make him the next John Cena, and he was saying suffering succotash in promos and looking like a complete goofball. They might as well put Goldust's wig on him. I mean, that's basically all they did, all but that. I mean, they totally neutered him, and that killed him among guys, among the dude bros. They're in the crowd. At WrestleMania, it's the ultimate in the crowd because you're going to get that mix of the hardcores and the casuals. And again, they just totally showed this match. I was reading tweets of people at the show where they said that as soon as the match was starting to get going early in the match, that people in the crowd they were pulling out their beach balls and inflating them. They waited until this match to do it, and it didn't take long. They just pulled them out immediately, pretty much, because they wanted this started up. The chant started up pretty much immediately for CM Punk. Even Nicholas was chanted for. We want Nicholas. I mean, boring. I was getting all kind of reports.
This is awful.
This is awful. The fans. There's a large percentage of fans that wanted to shit on this in the worst way. So you had this perfect disaster storm here of all this stuff going on, and then you throw on top of this that Brock beats him clean. Oh my God! I mean, it was the worst possible outcome you could have hoped for on this show, the absolute worst. Devin, I know Dylan's talked, I know I've talked, so it's your turn to go.
I mean, there was the one good spot where Brock blocked the spear with the knee. I mean, but the match was a disaster. I mean, it was just bad. It's the most disastrous main event in the history of the company for tons of reasons. I mean, this has just been a 3-year 3 years of horror. I mean, it's just, I don't even know. I mean, all I can say is that the match, from a in-ring perspective, it was pretty decent, but it just, the bad overshadows any good that there was there, and it was just a total train wreck of a main event, and I don't think anybody's happy about that outcome. I don't even, I don't even know if Brock Lesnar's even happy with it. I mean,
I don't think Vince McMahon probably even
no,
happy with
I
it.
don't think anybody's happy with it. I think it was a total fucking disaster. I think this is one of those.
It was a hostage situation.
This is one of those, to me. This is maybe slightly hyperbolic, but this is kind of like almost like a modern Montreal. It was just a total, complete, utter disaster. But at least Montreal was actually a great match before the screw job. This was just a, I don't even know how to it was bad. And totally ruined the show. The show had been falling apart by that point anyways, but this really closed the lid on this being a possible great Mania at all for me.
Yeah, it's sad. It's totally sad because we go into the show and there was so much stuff that was done well, build wise, and then matches they look good, and then it's just the culmination of everything. All the booking decisions that we saw, and then this takes the cake. What do you do? I mean, the Raw brand. I mean, you got a guy as your champion that you don't know if he's going to show up or not, and he may never show up. And then you got all your guys you neutered to sacrifice for him. It's just fucking ridiculous.
I've got a weird feeling that tomorrow is going to be very similar to the night after WrestleMania 32, where they pretend a lot of things that happened tonight didn't happen. And seriously.
Yeah.
Because it was a disaster. And I think I would be shocked if, about 3 p.m. lunchtime tomorrow at work, I open up my phone and breaking news, Brock Lesnar has vacated the Universal Championship and will be returning to Ultimate Fighting Championship. And there will be
stripped of the title.
Yeah, or stripped of the title, and then and I wouldn't be shocked if we had Braun and Nicholas get the belts taken away from them because Braun didn't get a proper tag partner, and I wouldn't be shocked if Carmella cashed in and beat Nia Jax. This is. I have a feeling that this, the follow-up is just, none of this ever actually happened because it was, not good. So let's just pretend that it didn't happen.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we just get a complete overhaul now. I mean, that's
not really a good thing,
you can do.
But it's
well,
yeah.
It's something I think you have to do
because sure.
I don't think Roman can be saved.
No,
I don't think there's any way he can be saved.
I just think he needs to go chill, and fucking, spend time with his family for a few months, come back for the build to SummerSlam and face somebody else,
God knows the guy's been a workhorse. I mean,
yes.
Up until the last month where they took him off TV for angle purposes, he's been the go-to guy for weekly matches for almost a full year. Well, actually, probably a full year. Actually, now that I think about it, I mean, he has earned a break, and I think both in terms of what he's earned and creatively, I think it'd be a real mistake, I think it would be a real mistake to put this guy in a situation in front of a live audience after tonight. And if they make that decision, they better come up with the most creative thing they've ever come up with. Because I just don't see where they go. Because here's the thing. People say, turn him heel, turn him heel. Turning him heel is not really a solution. A, he's already a heel to a substantial portion of the audience. B, the issue is not whether he's a face or a heel. It's what they let him do. The guy got over by being an ass-kicking heel. He got over again by being an ass-kicking babyface. If you have him as a sniveling shit heel or whatever, that ain't gonna work. I don't know, man. Like the ineptitude with the presentation of him. Again, you don't even have to think he's any good to realize that they fucked this guy when it comes to booking him. I mean, you could think he's the worst wrestler on the planet and think he shouldn't even be out of the lower mid card and still recognize that they've done him absolutely no favors with the booking. And the situation with Brock is such a disaster. I mean,
especially if the rumor of them holding them up, which is Dylan and I think we've even discussed on this podcast.
That's been a long time fear of mine. I mean, I was not told flat out that, right? Like I want to make clear.
Yeah, I mean,
I was not
told
flat out that was the case. It certainly wouldn't shock me if that was the case.
And again, not like Jeff Jarrett said, demanding, a certain amount of money, just basically saying, listen, I'm not going to go out.
I mean, I know the reports are, and this is going to leak out anyway, and I don't fucking really care. I'm not going to name names, but the reports are that nobody was happy with the finish, including Brock. I mean, I've been told that the fucking agent didn't even know the finish of the match and was surprised. So
it's amazing.
Now, look, might that be bullshit? Might this be a case where they're trying to work fans because that was kind of the premise behind this whole angle to begin with? Absolutely. And I think we should be cautious because of that. But given the degree of chaos, I don't know, man. I mean, this is a crazy story. They got to find a way to get the title off that guy immediately. I don't even care how they do it. I don't care.
I'm longing for the days of Kevin Owens as the Universal Champion at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
seriously,
seriously, like Kevin Owens is the Universal Champion. Seth Rollins and his horrific reign of terror.
God, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I would kill to have, the days of yore when we had
Triple H as champion, please.
Seth Rollins with a 45-minute promo to start Raw. Please, God, turn us to the promised land. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten. And man, they got to find an out.
Hopefully something will happen. Hopefully something will happen in the next few hours here as we go into the WrestleMania and we'll get some type of clarity. But yeah, this is an all-timer for the wrong reasons. That's for sure. All right, it's 3:07 a.m. as I record this now in the Eastern Time Zone. Oh God! So I think we're pretty much in consensus on this, right? Thumbs down.
Yeah.
I can't believe that I'm going thumbs down on the show.
I don't want to either.
There was a lot of good
I don't
wrestling.
want to either.
Right? Like,
yes.
I would say especially the first third or so of the show had a lot of good wrestling. And there were talks after the Rousey match. You had people saying this is on pace to be the best Mania ever. And while that's, whatever, if you projected forward from that point, it's easy to see why people would think that. I mean, it wasn't.
Well, Mania's not always been the strongest show in ring.
Of course not. But I think this is. I mean, you can't have as many bad booking decisions as this show had. I mean, this is what it comes down to. This is how I would summarize it, and this is why it's a definitive thumbs down, even though the show had several really good matches. The reason it's a definitive thumbs down for me is the Raw after Mania is typically the most anticipated show of the year, right? In some ways, even more than Mania, historically. Yes. I don't even know if I want to watch tomorrow night. I don't know if I'm going to. I that's not like a threat or me stamping my feet. I'm going to cancel my network. I'm not saying that. I'm be honest with myself. I'm not going to give up on WWE. But I don't know if I'm ready to tune in and watch Raw live tomorrow night or not. I don't care right now. They've annoyed me and shit on me and shit on my investment so much that I would kind of just as soon rather get caught up on the WrestleCon shows that I have watched from the independent shows this weekend. So I don't know that I'll be watching at 8 p.m. tomorrow, and that is unfathomable. And for that, to me, this pay-per-view gets the biggest possible thumbs down you can get.
I think we kind of have to watch to see what the fuck they do. I mean, it's kind of like it's must-see TV, but maybe not for all the right reasons. I mean, it's morbid curiosity to see how in the fuck did they get themselves out of this situation, and we go from there. But one thing we got to talk about here, and it's one thing that's been an issue for them lately on a lot of these big shows. When you have a show the night before on in your minor league quote unquote brand, your developmental brand NXT, that just smokes you out in every way, it really magnifies the problems that are going on with the main roster. It really does. And TakeOver just killed them completely again.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it happens every Big Four. Most every Big Four it happens. I think this year, it's funny. I actually think the Rumble was a better show than TakeOver Philly, in hindsight. But Gargano almost was on that show, and that sort of, kind of.
Yes.
But that sort of, it was kind of nice to see, a main roster show be just as good or better, and then that didn't happen this time, and most every time, it's the TakeOver that exceeds and wins it, in terms of quality every time, and it doesn't make the main roster look too good.
But yeah, and we had our questions on about some of the booking on TakeOver, but holy shit, I mean it looks like 84 Mid South, 86 Crockett compared to what we had tonight.
Yep.
Which it just makes no sense. All right, it's a long show. I tell you, I knew it was going to be long going into it, but it's been eventful. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Hope you're all still awake as you're listening to it. Hope we didn't put you to sleep. I don't think we did. I thought it was a great show. So, guys, thank you as always for being part of this. It's kind of like a therapy session sometimes. It's cathartic.
I consider it
in a way.
I consider it successful because I didn't go full Cornette and threaten anybody's life, which I thought was possible when we started.
Oh, by the way, you mentioned Cornette. Interesting, they aired that WWE Network commercial again that of all the new things coming up. Live reports in the building where when Bruce Pritchard's face popped up on the screen, the place exploded. Which Dylan, I know it's a whole other topic that you can't understand how this is a phenomenon, but it is. So, oh well, we'll see. All right, this is going way too long. All right, guys, thanks as always. This is Chris, and so long from the Peach State of Georgia.